Hello, race fans, and welcome into Echo Park Speedway, where the PGR eSports Intimidator Superspeedway Series rolls on tonight. Just 2 races down since, of course, the big PGR 500, and a lot of drivers that we've seen before in the series making a return here tonight. Some new faces, though, still joining in. We've got a lot of storylines to talk about and a lot to get into. And, of course, want to welcome in my co-host tonight, Dawson Wise, who will be joining us in the booth. Dawson, feels like we're still trying to play a little bit of catch-up from all the craziness of the 500, but good to be back here tonight at Atlanta and curious to see what these drivers can do on the 1.5 mile Superspeedway.
Yeah, Austin, good to be back with you on a Thursday night. I love this racetrack and this race car together. It has produced some incredible racing, both in the real-life counterpart as well as here on the iRacing service, and some of the best in super speedway racing. They know how to get around this place. Cannot wait for tonight and what it has in store. It's
going to be a good one. Well, track is getting ready to go. The field has qualified, and we're going to get right down track side and get into tonight's starting grid. The man who will take the pole is the same driver who won the PGR 500 and has won 2 back-to-back Coca-Cola Series qualifying Road to Pro races. Wyatt Gray puts down a 31.346 to get himself that pole starting position. Caden Dieterich, another one of the newly sponsored PGR Road to Pro drivers. He'll roll off in second. Landon Velicki making a return here tonight. He'll roll off from the 3rd spot, and he's going to have the 12 of Ethan Eckert to his outside in 4th. Garrett Maines, one of the former Coke Series drivers and newly signed PGR drivers, will roll off in 5th, and he'll have Malik Ray to his outside in 6th. Back in row number 4, it's going to be Cody Nagels alongside Cameron Craighead. Austin Call will start alongside Luca Turcotte back in row number 5.
Row 6 will feature the VRX and Team PGR driver Brian Hennings in the 74. He'll go from 11th. It's Freddie Bassinez in car number 2, continuing his PGR return. Tonight he'll go from 12th. Row 7, Carson Freeman in the 4 will go alongside the Midnight Racing League Group's Justin Melikar in 14th. I believe he'll be under the banner of the Jack Shack tonight, though. Row 8 will be Quentin Steinbach in car number 22 alongside Tanner Kasinger back in PGR for another start here tonight in Atlanta. Row 9, it's Team PGR's Brock Westmoreland in the 21 alongside the NBG entry of Jeff Merck in the 60. And back on row 10, it's Dylan Jones in the 011 and another Team PGR driver Mike Davenport in the 55.
Pair of Money Racing regulars back in 23rd and 24th. It's going to be Larry McDonald on the inside, Miles Bagley to his outside. Kyle Zittel, what a story he was in the PGR 500. He'll roll off tonight 25th. Josh Bonwell making a return here tonight. He'll have to start 26th. And then it's going to be one of the McCullough Motorsports drivers, Joshua McCullough, who will start 27th. And he is going to have Marcel Flores to his outside in 28th, with Jake Dilger in 29th and Michael Barksdale in the 00, rounding out the top 30.
Row 16, Brent Menifee, another PGR 500 attempting driver, will go from 31st. It's Daniel Falkingham, the first driver not to take a time, back in the 32nd spot. Row 17, another PGR start for Michael Frisch tonight. He'll go from 33rd with Nathan Harper to his outside and 34th off his second place effort last week. Row 18, the captain for Dega Pros, John Ward, goes 35th. Max Dinda to his outside in 36th. Row 19, it's Axel Smith in the 97 alongside Team PGR's Nash Brambilla in the 23. And rounding out the top 40, it's Colby Nill and the captain for McCullough Motorsports, Kenny McCullough Jr.
Back in 41st, it's going to be Matthew Patton. He'll have Tucker McClendon to his outside in 42nd. Steve Sizemore and Mark Vondell back in row 22, and it's going to be Andrew Hansley and Carson Hodge rounding out your 46-car field. It's going to be a big pack here tonight at Echo Park Speedway, also known as newly refurbished Atlanta. High banks here, not quite as much as we see at Daytona and Talladega, right around 28 degrees through the turns, but we are still going to see a lot of pushing and shoving. Race info here tonight is a little bit out of date. We're actually going to run 100 laps, 2 sets of tires in the pits, no fast repair as always, and then 1 green-white checkered if we were to need it. Well, we want to welcome on one of the newer sponsors to the PGR scene. We'll be sponsoring the entirety of the 2026 March Madness event. We wanted to give them a shout out here tonight, and that is Simrap Market. You see their logo in the top right of the screen. Well, a lot of drivers are ready to get going, and it's time to find out who is going to get the job done here tonight at Atlanta. Field rolls into the restart zone. Green flag is in the air. We are racing at Atlanta.
Halfway down the backstretch into turn 3. It'll be fast and furious, a lot tighter quarters tonight than we're used to at the Daytona and Talladegas of the world. Atlanta, a lot tighter quarters. Everything happens a little bit faster. Off turn 4 for the first time, Caden Diedrich brings the field back to the line. He'll lead lap 1 over Gray, and Ethan Eckert, who comes forward, is further back. 3 wide, a couple cars down the line. Jeff Murky is one of them. Kasinger is the other.
2 by 2 as they work on to the backstretch. And again, a lot to talk about here tonight. Strategy will come into play. These guys only have 75% fuel. If we can stay green long enough, pit strategy will be an option. As we go back a little bit further in the field, 3 wide. Jeff Merck finds himself caught on the outside here. The 60 going to duck in line just behind the one at Garrett Maines. No, he'll actually continue to fall back. By the way, you might have caught it on the restart. Garrett Maines had a little bit of an issue. Not sure if it was a stack up in front of him or if he had an issue. Trouble. One's going to spin out back. This is going to collect a few. Do we stay green? No. First caution of the night as the 87 flies in. And we've got a big-time pile-up on the backstretch.
There's a number of cars involved in this one. Josh Bonwell's in it. Steve Sizemore, I believe, is in it. Mike Davenport's in it. Misael Flores is involved in the 27. Major damage to Misael's 27. And a number of cars involved. This one started very small, and I thought it was going to get off the racing surface, but as they worked back onto the back straightaway, a couple cars came back up, and guys were flying into this incident, and a number of cars with major damage here just 4 laps in.
Yeah, we'll go back and get a replay of this here again. First caution of the night. Back it up a little bit more to where it started. It looked like it may have been right around the 60 of Jeff Merck, who we had just noted was 3 wide going down the front stretch. Looked like he was maybe going to get it sorted out. And next thing you know, the 60's caught up in the middle of 3 wide again. And, oh, man, it just looks like he was trying to clear off the nose of the 49 car. And you notice in the process, just not quite clear. That gets him sideways. He goes up the track, contact between the 49 and one other car down on the inside. And then you see for Davenport, Josh Bonwell, Miles Bagley, all these guys that just pile in with absolutely nowhere to go. And at some point here, the track becomes blocked. Dawson, we talk about, obviously, Atlanta not necessarily being a ton more narrow than Daytona, but not a lot of room to run either, even if you have to go down below the apron. And this one, in turn, probably collects about 4 to 5 cars at the start. But when it's all said and done, probably about 10 to 15.
A tough break for a couple guys towards the tail of the field. Again, that's usually the safest place to be, but you mentioned as cars start to come back up, Atlanta a lot more narrow and just not as much time to react. And for Bagley and Davenport and company, they're just unfortunate that those guys came back up just a little bit. Bagley actually gets us some airtime here. He got up on top of one of the cars that was involved in this one. A number of other cars. Max Dinda, I think, is in this. We talked about Bonwell being involved. There's another couple that actually slid in from behind. There may have been a second incident. I think Dilger was one of those, the 10. I mentioned Sizemore as well. There's one other car that was pinned to the inside wall. So several more cars involved in what looked to be a secondary incident as guys jumped on the brakes trying to get past the initial one.
And with no faster period, it's going to be very interesting to see if this wreck takes out anybody early in the going. As we turn our attention back live on the racetrack, Caden Diederich now leads the way here at Atlanta. And, of course, keeping an eye on him not only here in the Intimidator Superspeedway Series, but what he'll be able to do through the Coca-Cola iRacing qualifying series this season, as he will be carrying the PGR banner over there as well. But for Caden so far here tonight, doing a pretty good job. He's got that car going in the right direction. Started second, so not a lot of work to do. And, again, currently will lead us back to green here for the first restart of the night. Ethan Eckert currently in that second spot. He'll have Wyatt Gray behind him. Malik Ray back in fourth. And we saw, of course, his girlfriend, one of the many ladies that took place in the Better Half Dash yesterday. And she had a pretty good run over there. Malik looking to see if he can do the same here tonight. And then Cody Nagels currently rounding out the top 5. Well, Dawson obviously really early on here, but we kind of expected to see some sort of early carnage here at Atlanta. Just a much tighter track, but similar style of racing to Daytona and Talladega. You mix in the fact that we've got over 45 cars. Makes you wonder, though, if these guys have maybe got the nerves out of the system now.
Well, you would hope so, but then an early incident happens, and, you know, we see guys getting on the brakes, actually spinning the cars out on the brakes. I went back to look at the secondary portion of that incident, and it wasn't even hardly as much guys getting collected or you know, examples of what we would like to call ARCA braking. It was more guys got on the brakes, and the cars snapped out from under them as they tried to slow down and get into this incident, and actually they ended up spinning out a couple into the inside wall. So You know, curious about the nerves, curious about, you know, so maybe some familiarity issues with a setup. There is a different setup on board this race car tonight than we're used to here at Atlanta. It's a new custom setup, similar to how we had one for Daytona, the PGR 500. There's one tonight as well, and it makes me wonder if that's not going to go into it. A number of guys have now realized, oh boy, I get on the brakes and this thing wants to spin out. That could matter a lot later at a track as tight quarters as Atlanta.
Certainly can. We're getting ready to go back green this time. Lights are off on the iRacing.com pace car. Field back into the 2x2 formation, 45 cars deep. Only one car currently being scored out of the race, and I believe it's the same car that didn't actually start the race. That is Carson Hodge. And then Misael Flores is currently in pit road with a lot of damage. So night may be coming to an end for those two, but for everybody else, early carnage out of the way. Time to do it all over again. Field going to roll back into the restart zone, led by Dieterich and Eckert. Green flag back in the air at Atlanta, and this time it's a great restart for everybody in the first half of the field. No checkups this time. That's going to allow some shuffling early. Cody Nagel's quick to jump to the outside. Third back in line. He'll get behind the back bumper of Malik Ray. As Kane Dieterich jumps down to the bottom. The run's very, very big here on the backstretch of the first lap. Eckert's going to take it to the outside. Side drafts the 24 back. They're going to go 2x2 into turn 3.
And no checkups, but the runs with the field dish strung out after Dietrich got an early jump are going to be massive when guys arrive on the scene, especially here at the front of the field. Eckert with a teammate in his rear view mirror, actually two of them. Back to Malik Ray, third in line. They'll go 1, 2, 3 across the line. Hennings is the next car back from them through the center. Bassinez between Hennings and Dietrich, and Hennings is going to get turned. Brian Hennings is in the outside wall. Bassinez in it as well. Another multi-car incident up in turn 1 as guys continue to pile in.
Josh Gambrone slides through. I think he's going to get away mostly unscathed. And yeah, once again, we're still wrecking here. Even after the caution is over, looks like the 08 involved. Nowhere to go for so many drivers, and it's a roadblock. Ken McCullough Jr. still stopped as these guys are trying to figure out a way to get around here. The 54 is going to sneak by on the inside. A couple cars, looks like maybe Mike Davenport as well, going by on the high side. And man, we have got another mess here in the early going. Not even 2 green flag laps in the books here on the second restart. Before we saw that second caution, obviously just over the first 10 laps here are going to be ran under caution. And when we do get back to green flag racing, it's going to shuffle up the pit strategy even more. Ethan Eckert is currently being scored as your race leader, so at least in his case, no big shuffle up with this caution. Let's go back here, see if we can get a replay of exactly what went wrong here in just a moment. By the way, you see the 12 here is going to duck down. Interesting note to see this many cars going in for, I would assume, just fuel early to be necessarily taking tires. But that is something we'll keep an eye on here as they do cycle back out. All right, let's go back and get a look at this one here. It's exactly where it all goes wrong. You notice Dieterich here, this was actually the last incident. I want to zoom in here on the most recent one. All right, so here we go. You notice right there the 12 of Ethan Eckert. He's up front. No issue there. This actually starts back right around the 49 of Josh Gambrone, or maybe just a couple of rows ahead of him here. Let's see if we can get an aerial angle of this here from the chopper view. So they're 3 wide, and oh, it actually does start right around the 74 of Brian Hennings. And Dawson, I know you obviously called the 74 getting involved in this early. It kind of looked like from the live view and even first look on replay right there for the 74, just really tight quarters racing when the two tried to shoot the gap, and they eventually just run out of room here. They start ping-ponging off of each other. It gets the 74 turned around, and similar to the first wreck, once one spins, everybody else has got nowhere to go.
Yeah, this is a tough one and something we've seen in Atlanta more than once here in PGR competition, and that's where that middle lane is technically open, and Bassinez and Maines go to take that gap, and when they get to Brian Hennings, it happens so fast on the entry to turn 1 that Hennings goes to turn in the corner thinking that he'll be able to come down and follow the draft into that middle lane, and that middle lane is no longer open for him to come down into. But again, it happens so fast right there on the entry to turn 1 that by the time Hennings is turning down the hill, there's just not much you can do to avoid contact with the Bassinez machine there. They squeeze together. It actually turns out that Dietrich was about a lane off the bottom as well, so that does not help. There's nowhere for either car to go. And when Hennings gets turned, the track gets blocked quickly. Cameron Craighead is involved in this. And then more guys piled in from out back. I mean, there are a number of cars here that had some damage out of this one. You talked about Bassinez and Maines. Mellicar is involved in this. We mentioned Hennings. I saw Landon Velicki and Brent Menifee and John Ward all get a piece of this one as well. Brock Westmoreland may have been involved in this. David Flanagan may have been involved in this. There's a number of cars from about 15th on back. They got a piece of this one. Again, just by virtue of the track getting blocked. unfortunately, with where that happened, one of the narrowest areas of the racetrack, the entry to turn 1, there just is not much you can do to get woed down and get out of the way.
No, not much at all. And we just watched the onboard view there for Colby Neal, the driver out of Las Vegas. And you saw exactly what we saw, even up here in the broadcast booth, a lot of smoke. And as a driver, it's so tough to figure out where to go. Colby obviously doing the right thing there, just getting on the brakes, letting things kind of sort out in front of him before he tries to get up there and get back into the mix. So lights are back off on the pace car. We'll be going back to green flag racing this time around. Caden Dieterich, though, does currently lead the way. It's Cody Nagels in second. Tanner Kasinger about up 13 positions from where he started this race at in that third spot. Jones and Harper round out the top 5. Jake Dilger up 20-plus spots from where he started this race at. He's up inside the top 10. Eckert, Wyatt Gray, Malik Ray, and Garrett Maines, the rest of the drivers rounding out the top 10. We saw Garrett with that incident off the initial green flag start. He may have got a brief piece of that last wreck, but no notable damage. So all good for about at least the front 22-25. And with that pitch strategy, I don't think it shuffles up too much. But Dawson, I got to wonder, for some of these guys in the back, do you play it safe now and try to back way off of the lead group? Or do you try to get really aggressive and try to get track position before another incident breaks out?
I mean, after 2, especially with where they've happened in the pack, I would go with option number 1 and back way out of it. We're hearing from downstairs from drivers as well that there could be some braking issues on these race cars. I mean, I mentioned the guys spinning, but I think it's just issues in general, getting these cars woed down, knowing that I would be well outside the front pack, at least for right now, considering how tight quarters it is already.
Got to play it safe here. Still a long ways to go at Echo Park Speedway. Green flag back in the air. 11 of 100 in the books. It's a good restart this time for the 24 Dieterich. And he'll do exactly what he did on the last restart. The only difference, though, actually going to go to the high side this time. He saw the run that Ethan Eckert got, so this time he'll cover the top, but there's not a ton of help. Not yet. Here comes the cavalry, though. Nathan Harper going to jump up top. Him and Nagels will make it a 3-car tandem. Everybody else tries to bail to the top, but on the inside, it is all Dylan Jones. He's getting pushed by the 88 of Kasinger as they race back to the line 2x2 up front. Lots of separation through the middle portions of the pack.
So you can save a lot more tires down there on the bottom on that red and white line where Dylan Jones and Tanner Kasinger are right now. So that's the benefit. The issue is it's not the faster way around in the draft. The outside tends to have some more side force and be able to get the runs on exit of the corners. And they got more cars right now as well. 7 deep on the outside, back to now Wyatt Gray, who's back towards the front, all the way up through Dietrich inside. Is really only about 4 cars, make it 5. Dietrich's going to throw a block here as Dylan Jones does get a nice drive through turns 3 and 4 with Kasinger on his back bumper. The battle now is Kasinger and Nagels for 3rd. But look at this, triple tandem outside, make it quad tandem. Back to Garrett Maines, a big push. Dietrich with a late block there on Nagels. Nagels cuts him a huge break, and that's going to give Dylan Jones a chance to lead off too.
And for Dylan Jones, a chance to try to get the nose of his Ford Mustang out in front. Dieterich, though, still with more momentum on the outside. And remember, tire wear does come into play here at Atlanta, as you just saw the 88 of Kasinger wash up the racetrack into turn 3. Keeps it together, though. And I mentioned the tire wear because, once again, if we are able to go green flag long enough, the guys who save their tires will be the ones who have the best running long run car. That was another close call right there. Looked like the 118 of Austin Call had a big wiggle as they were coming on the exit of turn number 4, but everybody still holding it together. 3 wide now as Ethan Eckert's going to get split to the outside into turn 3.
Garrett Maines has been really aggressive early in this one. He was behind Freddie Bassinez with that 3-wide move a moment ago, and Eckert gets shoveled to the safer barrier. He'll go at least 8 rows deep in the field as Maines splits between him, now pushes on the back of Nathan Harper. Tanner Kasinger had another moment there on the exit of 4, headed down towards the entry of turn 1, as the handling on that race car is not what he wants it to be surely early in this run. He's still the pusher for Dylan Jones up at the front of the field, and just not many opportunities to bail. Here's a move to the inside. Harper went for it first. Nagels saw it and covered. Cody Nagels to the point ahead of Dietrich now. Maines up to help the 24 as the inside rolls forward with 3 cars in line. Dietrich and Maines await their help. It's Wyatt Gray out back of them, and he's bringing Michael Frisch to the front with him. Frisch coming to the front. Larry McDonald is behind him in the red and white 80. Back behind them just outside the top 10. Malik Ray trying to come forward again. He's right behind Daniel Falkingham. And Ethan Eckert is settled in back there as well.
And Frisch, one of the drivers who, of course, raised a lot of eyebrows in the PGR 500. You knew he was going to be good the week of that event, and here he is tonight racing at Atlanta on the back bumper of Wyatt Gray. Wyatt's been on a hot streak as of recent on any sort of super speedway or similar style of track. Trying to get it done here tonight at Atlanta. And again, we are early on here in the 2026 season, if you think about it here, for the Intimidator Superspeedway Series. But by the time we get to the end of it, there's only going to be so many winners. For everybody else, you've got a podium at least once, as we're going to see another caution here. So we'll hold that thought for just a moment, as this one way towards the back of the field, I would assume. Didn't get any reports of where that incident started. I'm thinking it was somewhere back around Andrew Hansley and a few others. And there is your answer. 3 cars around on the backstretch. Looks like it is going to be Brian Hennings, Steve Sizemore, and as just mentioned, Andrew Hansley, who's making his first Intimidator Superspeedway Series start here tonight.
It actually starts further up than them. It actually starts up around David Flanagan in the 61. 31 timing and scoring, 61 on the car. He got turned by the 10 of Jake Dilger up, about 10 rows in front of where Brian Hennings and company were running. And he is very slow against the safer barrier. Well, when Hennings and Sizemore arrive on the scene, unfortunately in the secondary, Sizemore can see the 61. The 74 of Hennings cannot. Sizemore jumps on the brakes. Hennings gets in the back of him, and it is on from there. You mentioned Hansley. Dinda is the other car involved in the 48. So 5 cars total, but it started way up in front, just outside the top 20, with David Flanagan getting turned to the outside wall.
And for Flanagan, of course, one of the Jack Shack drivers, looks like, I don't want to say he gets away unscathed. Obviously, some pretty decent damage there, but doesn't look like it's going to necessarily be a night ender. We just showed you the result of the first portion of that wreck with Hennings and Sizemore piling in. I want to back this up a little bit further. And this is, again, as you just heard Dawson talking about where it all started, the 61 of Flanagan. Just a little bit of contact, and that's actually a pretty big hit. Be a little bit more concerned than I initially thought about the right side suspension components for that race car, and then obviously very slow here. And it's tough, Dawson, as a driver. When you break suspension, you're trying to kind of stay out of the way, but at the same time get yourself in a spot where you can make it to pit road. And calamity once again. 3rd time we've seen trouble here in the early going at Atlanta.
Not very surprising, though. Atlanta, not a place that we have been to in a while, at least on the Thursday night scene, so no surprise to me. It's taken some guys some time to get back into the swing of things here on this tight quarters mile and a half, and we're used to Daytona and Talladega. You have a lot more room and a lot more time to react to things happening in front of you than you do here in Atlanta. And again, we continue to hear drivers complaining about potential issues with the brakes on this setup and the fact that they're just not able to slow down and jump in the brakes and avoid incidents. So combine the fact that we're at a smaller racetrack, that you already have less time to react, with the fact that this setup underneath these race cars may be having some issues with braking as well. And it's not a good recipe to avoid incidents here tonight in Atlanta. I think that's contributing to why we've seen 3 cautions so far in this race, and I imagine it will contribute to even more as we continue to go. These guys just cannot stop. It's hard enough to stop as it is, but when the cars don't want to stop, even when you jump in the brakes, that creates a whole other issue entirely. Notably, Tanner Kasinger, the only car not to pit there, by the way, in the 88, which we saw his moments a few moments ago. I'm a little surprised he does not come and opt for maybe at least a set of right side tires, maybe try to get the car to get underneath him a little bit more, but he does opt to stay out, and he'll inherit the lead.
A bold strategy play here by the 88. We'll see if it works out. And touching on the point you just mentioned, Dawson, obviously fixed setups, even though it is a custom fixed setup, so that means you can't make any adjustments. So as a driver, really all you can do besides trying to adjust the driving style is maybe try to move the brake bias back a little bit to try to see if you can help if the car's locking up or if the brakes just aren't working. Maybe try to make some sort of different adjustment there, but not a lot you can do, and certainly going to be interesting to see if that causes more issues as we go throughout the rest of this race. Sun's starting to peek out in the sim just a little bit as Kasinger is going to line up next to Nash Brambilla here for this restart. And if you're just joining us, we appreciate you being here. We're watching the Intimidator Superspeedway Series live from Echo Park Speedway. We've got a lot of drivers that are carrying onboard views for us here tonight. We're going to pop up the first of those drivers, Garrett Maines, who currently sits in 8th. He's down 3 spots from where he started this race at, so he's got a little bit of work to do, but the driver has already picked up 3 spots. We'll have to see what he can do for the rest of this race. We'll get some more driver cams in just a little bit. The man, though, who leads the way once again is going to be the 88 machine of Tanner Kasinger. Started 16th and now finds himself leading the way. iRacing.com pace car is going to make the left turn here as we work off of turn number 4, and we will try this once again after 3 cautions here within the first quarter of this race. Field going to work back into the restart zone. Green flag back in the air at Atlanta, and this time it's a great jump for the inside. Kasinger's going to get way out in front, but you got to be careful. If you get too far ahead, the field can run you down quick. 2x2, much more organization out back. Dawson, the 88's going to have a decision here. What does he do on the backstretch as the 39 closes in quick?
I think the run's going to be too large if Falkingham does turn right, which he does. Kasinger came up, tried to half block it. They make contact to Falkingham and Kasinger. So even though the fact that Falkingham turned right, they still almost had an incident. That's going to stack up that bottom lane with McDonald, Maines, Diedrich, and others, but everybody gets away unscathed. Daniel Falkingham to the point for the first time on lap 23, 78 to go. From Atlanta, Malik Ray goes second. He just threw a block on Nash Brambilla for third. Ray and Gray are lined up. That's a pair of teammates. They've got Axel Smith with them. Cody Nagels reemerges at the front as well with Nathan Harper and Michael Frisch in tow. And this time, 2x2 extending about 10 rows deep. Some more guys wanted to join in on the action here at the front of the field. I look back there, I see Kyle Zittel, Michael Barksdale, Tucker McClendon, Justin Melikar, just to name a few of the cars wanting to race a little bit more here off turn 4.
And for Melikar and McClendon, two drivers that can try to get together here and go to the front. Kyle Zittel and multiple others not too daring to try to get to that third line just yet. Not with what we've seen so far in this race. So it is all about controlling the top and bottom up front. Daniel Falkingham doing a stellar job of that right now. He won, of course, the Coca-Cola Series Road to Pro qualifying series, I should say. Top split race at Daytona just a couple of weeks ago. And here he is leading out in front at Atlanta. But he'll now go 2x2 off of turn 4. Malik Ray back to the outside. And the Canadian driver is going to pull clear of the lead. And that puts the one back in front. Malik Ray up 5 spots from where he started this race at. 2x2 and then 3 wide as you get further back. This is right around the 15th, 16th place running cars. Freddie Bosnez, Dylan Jones, even Josh Bonwell, all in the middle of that chaos. But they'll sort it back out to 2x2 further back in the field. Still well organized at the front.
Oh my goodness, Wyatt Gray and Daniel Falkingham. Gray threw the late block there on the entry to turn 3 and got kicked sideways by the 39 who did not want to lift. And unfortunately, or fortunately rather for the 18, he was able to make the save. Now 3 wide's going to begin back around. Guess who? Garrett Maines. He's been the most aggressive driver in the field to this point. And the 1 takes another couple of drivers 3 wide. He got to the inside of Michael Frisch a moment ago. Now he'll go to the outside of a couple of more. Cody Nagels blocked that run up on the outside against the safer barrier. Frisch actually goes with Garrett Maines. They'll bring Caden Diedrich to the top side. 3 wide for the first time that's been sustained. Nagels went back down to the middle in front of Axel Smith, though, as that run fades a little bit. Interesting to me that the third lane is fading here. They've got quite a bit of help. It is just not working for them right now up against the safer barrier. Garrett Maines going to get turned. The 1 car's around right in front of the field. Diedrich's in it. Zittel's in it. Bonwell's in it. And others as the field flies apart once again. 4th caution of the night on lap 27.
Tucker McClendon is also going to get collected late in that one as Bonwell comes to a sliding stop. Not sure what the damage is on that race car just yet. Mark Vondel and everybody else looks like are going to be able to sneak by here without any further incident. Not the biggest wreck we've seen so far tonight, but it looks like it may collect another one. As you can see right there, the 56 of Bonwell. Heavy front end damage to that race car, especially right around the right front toe link. I'd be curious to see if he's got any sort of broken suspension or if he can at least get this thing back out on the racetrack. But 4th caution of the night, just past the quarter-way mark here at Atlanta. And this is going to set us up for another interesting spot in terms of the strategy play. Nobody can make it yet on fuel. These cars on a full tank could probably go somewhere right around, if I had to guess, 60-ish laps, maybe a little bit more here at Atlanta. 75% though, we are definitely going to still be talking about at least 1, if not 2 green flag pit stops. Before we get to that though, let's go back and look at what happened here to bring out your 4th caution of the night. Chaos broke out on the backstretch. You heard Dawson obviously talking right around Garrett Maines, the 1 car who was going on that 3rd lane, trying to make something happen, but just couldn't seem to find a lot of progress. That was Frisch on the outside with him. We'll go first here actually to the chopper view. And watch as they come off of turn 2. Just as that car starts to unload off the banking, he's got Frisch hard on his back bumper, and it just doesn't take much. It almost looked to me like not necessarily an offset push, Dawson, but just pushing in kind of that little bit more of a sketchy area on the racetrack. As we take another look at this here again, and watch for Garrett as they come off the corner. Looks pretty squared up, Dawson, but just as the 58 tries to give him that second shot as they're coming off the corner, gets the one sideways. Garrett tries to save it, but just runs out of racetrack, gets into call. And as he goes back up, that's when Bonwell gets collected. He comes down and collects the 67 of Tucker. And luckily that wasn't a much bigger incident, similar to what we saw the first couple of cautions tonight.
I thought for sure this was going to be bigger than it was. It's a tough break for Garrett Main, so we talked about the aggression, and you're right, it wasn't really an offset push. That was what I thought I saw when it first got sparked up, but going back to take a look, it looks like it's a fairly normal push, a squared up push. It's where that car wants to unload off the banking. It gets a little bit light, and just the slightest movement on the back bumper of a car in front of you can upset the air on the back spoiler of that car and get that guy sideways. That's what happened to Mains right there. And then tough breaks for guys out back of that. And we talked about Bonwell and McClendon. Freddie Bassinez is involved in this. Austin Call is the other one, the 118. He's involved in this as well. A number of other cars come flying in. There was actually another incident out back of the initial crash towards the front of the field. There's another couple cars I saw get spinning as they tried to jump on the brakes. So that storyline continues to be a factor tonight. I could not tell off the top which car that was that spun in the secondary, but there's at least one that gets out of shape behind the initial crash. It's the 0-2 on the side of the car. I'm not seeing a 0-2 on the timing and scoring, so unsure which car that was, but there was another couple of cars that got involved. Actually, maybe in the 22 of Quentin Steinbach. As he jumped on the brakes, the car gets out from under him once again.
Yeah, that's exactly who it was, the 22 machine. One of the Camrys in the field here tonight, and that was Quentin Steinbach, who goes around. Lucky that he did not get any damage there, but obviously going to set him back a little bit in terms of track position. So as we do go back live, setting up here for yet another restart here in tonight's action. So far, so good for the guys that have been up front. We've seen a couple of close calls, but most of the chaos has been towards the middle portions of the pack, and then as you get a little bit further back. But of course, it can break out anywhere at any time. That's kind of the nature of super speedway racing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as we go the rest of the way. Malik Ray is your leader right now. We've had 4 lead changes so far in this race, and cautions so far have been pretty busy. Now, something I want to point out here, Dawson, obviously we look at Malik Ray restarting up front with Wyatt Gray. Those are two different mindsets. Wyatt a little bit more conservative, Malik very aggressive, but Nashper and Billa have not been able to call his name in a couple of weeks. He has looked very good early in that silver and black Ford Mustang.
Yeah, he has. Nash happens to like this format at Atlanta Motor Speedway, this configuration of it. Very comfortable riding up front and has made his way to the front of the field. Plus 35, by the way, from where he started back in the 38th spot. Comfortable to run up front with the leaders and doing so far in the going. 30 laps up and down, 70 still to go. Ray and Gray on the front row, green flag. Good run for Ray, but a stack up back around Michael Barksdale. Everybody gets going. And the field will work off towards turn 1. Another early jump in the restart zone. That's something I've noticed tonight. These guys like to go very early. It spreads the field out. It creates big runs, but it also reduces the opportunity to have some of those big stack-up crashes on the entry to turn 1. Malik Ray and Wyatt Gray teammates go nose to tail. They're one of their other cars. Freddie Bassinez is up here as well, 4th in line right behind Brambilla, who we were just talking about. Top lane going to be anchored by Cody Nagels. Cameron Craighead, Chip Merck-Falkingham is out back. Eckert and Harper against the wall. They want to get mixy here on lap 32.
And the aggression early on the restart here, not too surprising. We've seen it so far. Cody Nagels, first car on that outside line. Eckert trying to go 3 wide. It'll be interesting to see how this affects that middle line. Oh man, Eckert, big moment right there. That looked like a similar situation to what just happened between Mains and Fritsch. Harper was pushing the 12 off the corner and almost turned him down into the inside line, but they're both able to save it. And we continue on green. The inside continues to be dominant. Malik Ray up front, but now he's going to have to cover. Wyatt Gray starts to fade to the high side. Now dips right back down to the bottom. Nash Brambilla 3rd in line, 2x2. Once you get to 4th on back, the 2 of Bosnez on the inside. Nagels, though, side drafting him back, and the outside is now starting to get some momentum. Nagels moves up to about 5th, tries to get further into turn 3, and all the pushing on the outside. Dawson still struggling a little bit, though, to try to get even with the leaders.
A lot more room being given this time around on this run from what I'm noticing. Big moment for Michael Barksdale, the big red Chevy, as he tried to get that thing back underneath him. He is able to in the 00, but Craighead and Nagels take advantage. They're going to jump in line. Right in front of him, trouble. Around goes Jeff Merck, right in front of a number of cars, and once again, it's going to be a multi-car accident. Vondell's involved, McDonald's involved, Patton, Mains, and a number of others. Hansley slides in. Big hit there as Austin Call arrives. More big hits. McClendon, Dinda, Flanagan, Westmoreland, a number of cars coming into this one that are involved in the secondary.
And man, I was, watching it live, this was brutal. I mean, you could watch some of these guys on the brakes and the car just not slowing down. Man, that was a really, really tough hit for a few different drivers there late in the going. Be very curious to see what some of the onboard views look like from this one. Jeff Merck, though, second incident that he has been towards the start of here tonight. And it's so tough with these next-gen cars. Very snappy once you start to get loose. Very, very tough to save it. And for Merck here, this is going to set him back once again as he'll have to go in and maybe get a few repairs to that race car. I mean, all things considered, though, I was going to say, certainly looks like it could be worse. But this is now going to be your 5th caution, and we are still a little bit of a ways here from the halfway point in tonight's action. So it's going to be very interesting to see, once again, do all the leaders decide to come into pit, or do most drivers decide to stay out? You can see the pace car there catching up, and Malik Ray, sure enough, is going to lead a giant group down. This will bring just about everybody in for pit stops. Looking at who stayed out, Cody Nagel's the first driver to do so. And for the 6th here, Dawson, before we go back and look at a replay, feeling pretty confident that track position is king here in the early going still.
Well, track position is king because we haven't been able to run a ton of green flag laps for guys to improve their track position, save for guys, you know, like we talked about already. Falkingham was in the plus 20s. John Ward is in now the plus 30 range. We talked about Nash Brambilla plus 35. Unless you're one of those guys that got a bunch of spots early and by staying out on a pit strategy, there just haven't been a lot of green flags opportunities to make up positions and get back to the front. In terms of the incident, I thought it might have been another push on a weird portion of the banking. It's not. Looks like Jeff Merck just lost the handle on that car on entry to turn 1. A sensitive area right there, trying to get the car to set is what we call it on the banking. And that's where you have to kind of turn it in. You kind of have to prep yourself and turn the car in early so that it sets down on the banking and does not get upset when you're trying to kind of readjust how you're turning into the corner. Unfortunately for Merck there, I'm not sure if somebody on the bottom is coming up or what happens, but it snaps out of his hand as he tries to readjust, and it is on from there. And I'll tell you, the guys out back, I mean, they were coming into this at a high rate of speed. I'm not sure if it's a visual issue where they couldn't see the crash or a combination of that and the brakes on this setup. It continues to be a storyline tonight. A number of big hits right there.
Yeah, Tucker McClendon came sliding in, nothing he could do, and you saw kind of right around where the initial wreck was. I'll tell you what, I don't know how Ethan Eckert and Nathan Harper managed to miss this one. We're going to go to their onboard views here in just a moment. First up, though, I want to actually go back, and this is going to be the cockpit view for Tucker McClendon. Interesting kind of watch here because he's going to see this wreck out in front of him, and he's actually going to pile into this here on the later side. Let's watch. He starts checking up, sees it out of turn 2, and then gets on the brakes, and see the car just slides. I mean, there's just not really much he can do. Piles into Mark Vondell and a couple of others. We saw Austin Call, Andrew Hansley, a bunch of guys in this one that just had nowhere to go. Now, on the flip side of that, we talked about Ethan Eckert and Nathan Harper. Here's the gearbox view. He's going to see this incident. That was actually after it already had passed. But watch at the start of this. He's going to see this incident and somehow is able to just barely duck far enough left to miss a spinning 60 of Jeff Merck. There you see the car snapping. That was an amazing piece of driving right there from Ethan Eckert to keep himself from getting involved in this one. Dawson, the other thing worth mentioning there for Jeff Merck, you mentioned setting the car, and I think you hit the nail on the head with that. We talked about it earlier in the broadcast. Track temp should, in theory, not be an issue here. The weather is pretty mild. We're right around that later portion of the day, getting closer to sunset. But even so, I don't know, again, if that's also part of the setup that was provided here tonight, or if that's something else. But we have seen a couple cars get snappy loose in different situations. And that one came back to bite the 60 of Jeff Merck as we're getting ready to go back green.
It could very well be something in the setup where, you know, when you tweak certain things about the brakes, it actually affects how the car turns in on entry. It could very well have affected the way that these cars set down on the banking, and that could very well be what caused Jeff Merck the car to snap out of his hands. He may have expected the car to drive a certain way on entry of the corner, and when he goes to drive in, the front end gets to turning a little more than he thought it would, and it snaps out of his hands as he tries to recorrect and get out of the way of the bottom lane. It could very well have been a setup thing that caused Jeff Merck to, have that issue and have the car get out from underneath him and cause that 5th caution. Going back to green, 63 laps to go here from Atlanta. Cody Nagels leads the field back into the restart zone. Green flag back in the air. Several cars again did not pit. Nagels and Ward were 2 of them. I don't think Kasinger has come down pit road either in that 88. He continues to ride the same set of tires that he started this race on. He'll come forward to second as the field works off turn 2. Nagels, Kasinger, Falkingham go 1 through 3. Ward files in, the most single file up front we've seen so far, but the outside lane starts to get going with Harper, Gray, Eckert, and others.
You can see the glare really start to shine on the back straightaway. It'll be interesting to note if that's an issue down the front stretch where that sun would be in the windshield of these drivers. And sure enough, you can see it right there from the onboard view of Cody Nagels. As you go right across the start-finish line before you get to the shading and the banking for turn 1, that sun is a bit of a factor. 2 wide up front for about the first 5 to 7 rows, and then it's 3 wide. Malik Ray was trying to make his way towards the front. A couple cars had to scatter down to the apron, but they're going to all gather it back up into turn 3. And just like that, back to 2x2. The 84 Millicar had a run, but nowhere to go with it. He'll jump just in front of the 55 at Davenport, and then single file as you get towards the back. The 88 of Colby Nill trying to make his way through the field. That's one of the drivers we're keeping our eye on here tonight. But back at the front, still 2x2. And tell you what, Dawson, Malik Ray not content to ride in line. He continues to charge on that third line.
I was wondering if the aggression level would come down after a couple of the incidents we saw at the front, but judging on what Malik Ray has done early in this race, he's trying to make that third lane work really by himself. And the pushes at the front have not been any less aggressive. Wyatt Gray in the back of Nathan Harper just 1 lap ago almost got the 4 turned around, and that would have been in front of the entire field behind him. And about 9 rows of 2 wide would have been involved in that. Almost a moment back around Steve Sizemore in the 08. He's going to get turned. Steinbach's around in the 22. The caution's going to come out again. The guys are trying to jump on the brakes, and there's going to be a secondary. Another couple cars involved. Josh McCullough, Max Dinda, and one more sitting against the inside wall further back.
And Mark Vondell, doesn't look like it was that car that got involved. I think it was, yeah, Steinbach, the one that was stopped a little bit further back. He'll get that car looped back around, pointed in the right direction. Max Dinda, looks like he may have a little bit of damage there on the left front of that race car. And then damage just behind him for Brent Menifee. Not sure if that was from this incident or a prior one. But the 64 is certainly pretty heavy damage as well. Now your 6th caution of the night. And we are not even halfway. When you put 45 cars on Atlanta, again, always a concern. And the storyline starts to turn more and more towards the fact that you have got to have track position. And we mentioned Nagel staying out, Dawson. I think it was a pretty smart decision because I got to assume he comes potentially in the pits this time. And he is certainly going to have a slight advantage fuel number-wise over everybody else. Let's back it up here and see where it all went wrong in this one, as that was Quentin Steinbach spinning around. Not sure if this was the start of the incident. Yeah, it looks like it was. It's actually going to be right around the 08 of Steve Sizemore, who once again has been caught up in a few incidents here tonight. Actually, this would be the second one, and it looks like he's 2 wide. They're almost 3 wide. That's Dieterich in the middle, and man, it just really looks like Sizemore is squeezing the 24 as they're headed down towards turn number 1. You see him at the top of your screen here, and watch it again in slow motion as they start to come out of the quad oval. Well, Dieterich does maybe start to wobble up here, actually. I take that back. Sizemore's not really moving. Dieterich, maybe a little bit of contact into the 08, starts to send Sizemore up the racetrack, and then the guys behind him, including Miles Bagley and a few others, once again, just not able to check up. That starts the ultimate wreck, and then Sizemore's going to go for a slide into the inside wall. He's out ahead of it, and then behind it, that's where we saw guys like Steinbach, Dinda, and a few others get involved in this one.
In the tight quarters racing, I think it's the biggest storyline tonight, well, other than the brakes at this point on these next-gen race cars and this current setup they have underneath them. And right there, I saw this one starting to develop well before Sizemore actually got turned. I saw that initial interaction with the Diedrich car, and then as he gets caught, he unfortunately just gets some contact that gets him sideways, and he gets around in front of the field. Again, I thought this one was going to be a lot bigger than it was. It really only collects Steinbach in the initial, but then a couple more cars, again, just trying to jump on the brakes as they normally would, get completely sideways. The tires are just sliding on the racetrack, not responding to the brake input really at all. We saw Dinda go for a spin as he tried to get on the brakes. McCullough, there was one other car in the wall as well behind the 05. So again, it continues to be a problem. Guys are expecting the car to respond to the brakes, and the car is just not responding to them really at all. There's not a whole lot they can do in the race car to avoid that. Obviously, you can change some things, but you can only go so far, and I just don't think it's helping. I think, guys, that you've seen them try it, it's just not helping the brakes on these race cars right now.
Certainly does not seem to be that way, and as we line back up for yet another restart, it's going to be Kasinger and Barksdale who will line up the front row on this one. Daniel Falkingham going to line up as the lead pusher on the inside, and I don't know if he's too pleased. Actually, looks like he may get the outside. Nope, he will indeed get the inside. I was going to say, I'm not sure if he's too pleased still with the 88 of Kasinger after the block he threw earlier on the 39 as he tried to sneak by, but those two going to have to work together at least initially here to try to get that line moving forward. And a couple of quick housekeeping notes. Again, A lot in store here for PGR. Dawson, obviously the official ERA announcement. We'll be talking much more about that over the next couple of weeks as the details continue to funnel in, but looking forward to covering the big season for them and the partnership with Jesse Awuji and all the guys over at ERA and everything that they are going to help do for PGR. And then we've, of course, got an entire season of the Intimidator Superspeedway Series still ahead of us. And then on our side here, we're taking a chance to update some of our graphics on the broadcasting side. We were working on some new overlays throughout the day today. You might have noticed it on the scoring tower, so please let us know what you think of it. And otherwise, Dawson, what a great time to join PGR, and great to see so many drivers out here on a Thursday night.
Yeah, such an exciting time coming off, obviously, the monster week that was the PGR 500 and all that, we got to be a part of with that, and getting to be, during that main event on Sunday, now coming off of that and knowing, that we have some ERA stuff coming up in a couple weeks. Cannot believe, by the way, that we're going to get to be a part of that as well. I'm really excited for that. But also, March Madness starts next week as well for PGR eSports. That's been a really fun, a home run for PGR eSports the past couple years, and it comes back again this year. We'll tell you more about it as we get to it. Meanwhile, here in Atlanta, though, 56 to go. Green flag back in the air. Barksdale doesn't go on the outside. Notably, he's going to get out of the way of Nathan Harper and avoid an incident, but almost big trouble at the front of the field. With the big red Chevrolet, that allows the bottom to come through uninhibited. Kasinger, Falkingham, Bassines, now Melikar all clear. First time we've seen Justin Melikar this far up. He's got Diedrich with him. Outside after the stack up, has to regroup down here into turn 3. Harper leads it, not for long. Justin Melikar is going to put his nose in clean air, and he wants to lead the outside lane.
Barksdale still fading back after that initial slow start. Not sure if he missed a gear, spun the tires, or what the issue was. 2x2, though, at the front of the pack. The man that leads the way, though, Tanner Kasinger. Daniel Falkingham, though, not going to sit in second for long. He'll jump into the outside through turn number 1, gets the side draft, and the 39 Chevy is going to pull clear of the lead down the backstretch. Still 2x2, though, through about the front 10 to front 20, and then everybody else single file trying to catch up to this lead group. You notice a couple of the cars back here, the 62 of Landon Veliky, the 23 of Brambilla. Watching for a lot of these guys to get to the front. Well, a big tandem now for the front 2. Bosnes actually getting linked up with Falkingham. That's one of the biggest runs that we have seen all night. Those guys well over 190 miles an hour going down into the banking of turn number 1 right there. And now the pack starts to run him down. Another move to the outside. Kasinger lost the lead a couple of laps ago. He's trying to grab it back.
Handle on that car, it's just not working for him on the entry of these corners, and he had another moment there in the all-white 88 on the outside, but he gets it regrouped back underneath him, and now he's got the push from Diedrich on the outside. Almost trouble. Diedrich almost turned him right in front of the entire field. They all get it shaped back up. Harper gets shuffled to the outside as he and Melikar tried to jump on the brakes. He'll pick up Nagels and Eckert trouble. Nathan Harper gets turned. Dylan Jones is in it. McDonald. Diedrich gets turned further up. Kasinger, Eckert, the big one, strikes on the back straightaway.
And another multi-car incident that happened simultaneously, and man, Diederich just got T-boned going down the backstretch. That was the 87 of Miles Bagley that hit him. And another 4 to 5 car incident puts us under our 7th caution of the night, as we continue to be on record pace here for caution count with what we've seen so far at Atlanta. And for Diederich, talked about one of the PGR officially sponsored Coca-Cola qualifying series drivers, and I'm sure I'm mixing that name up, Dawson. We used to know it as Road to Pro, but for Diederich, obviously has done a lot so far in Coca-Cola qualifying series, but here tonight, this is not what he wanted to see here at this point in the race. Most concerned about the right front suspension for that race car as he'll limp it back around. Maybe not a day-ender yet, but again, we're going to have to keep an eye on what he has to get fixed with that race car. Let's go back and look at it here. Again, 2 incidents that basically started pretty much right at the same time. Diederich is going to be involved in the incident a little bit further up, and it's between him and Kasinger. And then the second incident further back, which was the one that we caught first, was the incident between Nathan Harper and I believe whoever was pushing in here, which appears to be the 12 of Ethan Eckert. So we're going to see which one of these we can catch first. Is you kind of saw at the bottom right of your screen. Back this up a little bit more. Trying to get kind of both in one angle for you right here. All right, so watch the 4. You see top of your screen. That's Nathan Harper. Now bottom right of your screen. He gets turned off the push from Ethan Eckert. At the same time, Kasinger just getting a little bit offset of the bumper for Diederich. That push got him a little bit sideways. Eventually, he loses it. Diederich tries to split to the middle, and that's how those two end up getting kind of basically wound together, and that collects 2 to 3 cars in that incident. And then the wreck that we saw further back with Nathan Harper and a few others, Dawson, looked like a similar scenario to what we saw with Garrett Maines earlier, and that was just a slightly, I don't want to call it an offset push, but just a push on the exit of the corner, basically going wrong.
Yeah, it seemed that way. It was an offset push, but actually it looked to me, I got a pretty good look at it. It looks like it's actually 3 cars deep in line when that one starts. I think as Ethan Eckert gets to Nathan Harper, he realizes he's a little bit offset. Cody Nagels can't see that out his front windshield. He's squared up with Ethan Eckert. So he pushes through Ethan Eckert, trying to get that lane to go as Eckert jumps on the brakes. And Eckert has no choice but then to go back through the left rear quarter of Nathan Harper and turn him sideways across the field. A helpless feeling there for the Dallas Cowboys Mustang as he gets turned. But it starts 3 deep in line, and it's just because the visibility right there, you really can't tell through the car in front of you that those 2 cars are offset. And for Nagels, he's just trying to get the line to go. He pushes through Eckert. Eckert has no choice but to go through Harper, and it's on from there. Nagels actually gets turned in the secondary of that. And a number of other cars get involved. Miles Bagley came into that as well and clobbered the Harper machine as he sat sideways across the racetrack. So again, the brakes continue to be an issue, and for Miles Bagley there, it's just nothing he could do. He committed to a lane, and the brakes under these cars have been so bad, he just had no choice but to pile in.
A tough break there too for Nagels, who was part of that incident, so he's going to lose a significant amount of track position. This is actually going to give us a shuffle at the front of the field. We had said earlier most of the cautions had started right around the mid portion of the pack on back, but this one towards the front of the field in 2 different ways. So that is going to shuffle up the pile just a bit. John Ward, who is a former PGR winner, will restart on the front row alongside Malik Ray in the 1 machine. And then it's going to be back in row number 2 here. Carson Freeman, the 4 car, he's picked up 10 spots from where he started this race at Dawson. Kind of silent, but it's been pretty quick so far here tonight. We'll see if the 4 car can continue to hold that track position now that he's gotten himself here. Wyatt Gray back in 5th, Mike Davenport 6th, Freddie Bosnez, Daniel Falkingham, Axel Smith, and one of the Money Racing veterans, Ken McCullough Jr., all back up inside the top 10. John Ward going to get a final check of the tires here. We've seen restarts going really well for the leader. They've been able to get these big jumps, but it has also cost them on the first lap. Remember, most tracks, you want to get as big of a jump as you can on the restarts, but here at these super speedways, you don't want to get too far out in front, because the further out you go, the bigger of a run the pack's going to have once they chase you back down. Garrett Maines on the outside here. Watch for him to try to get an early jump to keep Malik Ray even and get this outside line wound up a little bit sooner than what it's been able to do the last couple of laps. 7th caution is wrapped up. The iRacing.com pace car will make the left turn once again, and John Ward is going to lead us back into the restart zone. Green flag is going to go back in the air at Atlanta. 50 laps to go, and it's a great restart for the inside once again. John Ward, though, going to have a decision here. Does he go to the high side to cover the momentum? Right now, he's content on the bottom. That's where Malik Ray is going to jump. It leaves Garrett Maines all by himself up top. The 4 Freeman rolling down low. 2 by 2 as you get to about 8th on back, and the outside now has to group up, but they can't do it. Garrett continues to fall as Malik Ray and John Ward tandem away at the front.
Common story for the outside lane is it's just taking them a little bit longer to get the run going, especially when the leader drags some cars down with him when he gets a good jump up front. Garrett Maines continues to lead it, but he's 6 rows deep in the field. Back outside the top 5, trying to battle with Axel Smith right now for that 6th position, actually in a line. Maines starting to get it going now. Davenport is his help. Mike Davenport is back at the front after some early issues. He got into a couple of crashes. He's coming back forward. Now the teammates jump out. Malik Ray to the outside, trying to get to the right rear of John Ward. Wyatt Gray goes with him. Freeman, no choice but to fill in behind John Ward, try to push him. Falkingham will go with the 2 teammates up top. They're joined on the scene by Maines and Freddie Bosnez, who was able to get up off the red and white line. He is now 5th in line, making 3rd in line. As the teammates jump to the bottom up front, they lead. Bosnez takes the run. It's out back. Cody Nagels is really aggressive on this early run. He was 3 wide up around Kyle Zittel. Nobody going with him yet, as Harper, Jones, and Eckert all opt to stay in line. But the 6 is aggressive. Now he'll have some help from out back of him as they get the 3rd line going.
It makes you wonder, if you're Nathan Harper here, are you a little bit nervous about pushing? He's thinking about if he wants to stay up top or go back down to the middle. He'll continue to work with Nagels for the moment. That 3rd lane continues to fade back. 55 laps now in the books, and up front leading the way, it's the Canadian driver Malik Ray, currently in the Coke Series once it gets going again. And for Malik, as it stands at the moment, winningest driver in PGR history, so he knows how to get it done on the super speedway side of things as well. First Coke Series win for Malik actually came right here at Atlanta Motor Speedway, so another track that you know he'd like to go back to victory lane at, as he leads the way right now. 2 by 2 as you go a little bit further back, and then 3 wide as that's Ethan Eckert stuck in the middle in the auto zone Ford Mustang. He's getting a push right now from Fritsch. And that outside line with the 6 and Eagles now trying to push Kyle Zittel, one of the rookies to the series. But that third lane continues to go nowhere. Another block to the top. Malik Gray leads into turn 3.
The third lane has just not been as beneficial as we're used to seeing it here tonight at Atlanta. We're used to seeing that lane really go once you get the right cars against the safer barrier. Tonight, it's just not been as good. I'm not sure if it's a setup thing or a track temp thing or a little both. Can we mention this? The custom setup tonight as well as a lower track temp potentially means the middle and bottom have a little bit more run, a little bit more time to push and prevent the outside lane from really going anywhere. And that's been the story so far as Nagels, Harper, and Zittel were just unable to get anything going. Nagels and Harper are going to try it again. Here on the run up to turn 3 is up front. Ray will face a challenge to the lead. Here's Daniel Falkingham to his right side door. A pair of men who have known each other very well over the last year of PGR competition. Falkingham gets the better of him this time. He'll go to the point. Garrett Maines will go alongside Malik Ray now. Bassinez is with the 1. On the outside, Steve Sizemore has poked his nose into the fray in the 08. We've noted the problems he's had tonight. They do not matter anymore with 43 to go as he enters the front of the pack. 58 will be 59 when they get back. Falkingham leads in 3.
Garrett has had to be really aggressive on the side draft here to try to keep that outside even. Bosna is doing all he can, but he's got no support from that third car in line. That's the 08, the yellow and black machine, as Steve Sizemore not able to get there. And you notice there's a gap even behind him. Mike Davenport trying to get there as he'll now jump to the high side, covers the push from Nagels and Harper. And all that disorganization in the middle is allowing this third lane to slowly but surely start to work their way to the front. Now again, a pit stop potentially still in play here, Dawson. It's a little bit closer for these guys with 75%. But right now, I think everybody's still more concerned about track position. 2 wide through about the front 10, and then they get 3 wide further back. But for Garrett Maines, potentially one of the first opportunities he's had to go to the lead here tonight, as the 1 car will now jump to the front on the outside. With Falkingham fighting back down low, he's going to get a push from Malik Ray. Trouble. Sizemore down into the car, and he's going to turn just about 2 or 3 of them back into the outside wall. Caution's going to come back out. And it's another big one as Wyatt Gray, defending PGR 500 champion. His race car is destroyed. Michael Barksdale came to a sliding halt. Multiple others involved in what is now your 8th caution of the night.
Yeah, a number of other cars involved. Nathan Harper got a piece of this. Mike Davenport got a piece of this. So too did Dylan Jones. I believe Cody Nagels might have gotten a piece of this as well. Brian Hennings has some more damage aboard his race car. But obviously, the most destroyed race car here, and likely a night ender, is Wyatt Gray. And we are being told downstairs from pit road, a meatball flag is on the 18. His night is over for Wyatt Gray, the 500 champ, as he got turned out of line by Steve Sizemore.
And looking back at the replay here, boy, that's an odd one, Dawson. I'll tell you what, it doesn't look like the 12 of Ethan Eckert is actually on his bumper. It looks like the 08 gets loose, but it's almost a really odd-looking kind of situation the way it gets loose. And not that bad when we sped it up there a little bit. Again, watch the 08. Again, bright yellow and black car, third on the outside line as they're coming off of turn 2. Eckert never gets there, but right as they're coming off the corner, just starts to get loose. The back end starts to wiggle. He goes down, clips Wyatt Gray. That sends the 18 hard into the outside wall, and then once that car's destroyed, he slides down, and as everybody tries to miss him, collects about 2 or 3 more by the time it's all said and done.
Yeah, I went back and took a look with you as well, and, you know, you're right. As Sizemore gets off the corner, the car just gets lighted. It actually looks a lot like what happened to Jeff Merck early in tonight's race, except on the opposite end of the corner. Merck's happened on entry as he tried to set the car. For Sizemore, it happens off the exit as he's trying to get the car underneath him to go down the straightaway where that car wants to unload and get a little bit light. We've talked about it time and time again, especially in this Gen 7 race car. When you've got a guy close, it doesn't even have to be a push. When you have a guy close, it can oftentimes mess with the air on the rear spoiler of that car. And for Sizemore right there, as that car wants to unload off the banking, he gets sideways. And, man, that is a monster hit for Wyatt Gray. I mean, that's one of the biggest hits we've seen in Atlanta in a long, long time. A night ender for sure. Sizemore, Dylan Jones, we mentioned Nathan Harper, Davenport. Eckert actually goes for a spin in this as well. There's a number of heavy-hitting cars involved in this one. This one happened again. Right about 5 rows deep in the field, just inside the top 10.
Yeah, that exploded the front end. Number 18 Chevy. So for Wyatt Gray, he's obviously done for the night. A couple of others here with some relatively significant damage. And with this caution now, again, we are officially over the halfway point. Dawson, I got to think Again, I know that we're not actually down on the racetrack, but just thinking about what the Cup cars can run on 100% fuel here at Atlanta, man, I think these guys are going to be pretty close here when we get back to green flag racing.
Yeah, definitely pretty close. And we knew the range at Daytona to be about 42 laps on a 100% fuel tank. Of course, 75% would be about 30. Here at a mile and a half in Atlanta, we're pushing about 39 laps to go. Likely that everyone will be good to go the rest of the way, although it will be very close. We'll have to wait and see exactly what that number is, but we're pretty close to it here on lap 62. And even if we're not, even if there is a pit stop still in play, the question in the driver's minds, the question in my mind up here in the broadcast booth is, are we going to have a green flag run long enough to test that pit stop number? We have yet to go longer than about 5 to 8 laps under green before a crash happens and puts us right back under the caution flag. If we do the same thing again, get to lap 71, everyone can come back, top off, and they'll be good to go to the sprint to the end of this thing. I got to think drivers are starting to question whether or not we're even going to have to think about a green flag pit stop tonight, considering how many incidents we've had so far.
Yeah, and it's definitely a fair question at this point, as we now look at one of the drivers who's going to have some work to do to get back to the front, and that is the 88 machine of Colby Nill. Currently finds himself buried back in the 27th position. We appreciate Colby carrying an onboard view for us here tonight, and Colby racing with a extra heavy heart, as his friend Eli unfortunately did pass away from cancer just recently, so we're keeping Eli in our thoughts and prayers. And I know Colby, again, would like to go out here and get a win, get this one done for Eli. Well, as we go back towards the front here, Dawson going back green this time. And man, even with all the carnage we've seen so far, I don't know if it's just because Atlanta's a smaller track or if we've just had enough guys that have been able to survive through them, but we still have a lot of cars up here in this lead pack in contention. So by no means is this a complete race of attrition just yet, but it could certainly get to that point if we see a few more cautions. Pace car is going to pull off once again. This time, it's the Toyota Camry machine for Garrett Maines, who's going to lead us back into the restart zone alongside Daniel Falkingham. Green flag back in the air. And this time, it was a little bit of a stack up on the bottom. I think that the two of Bosnes thought that Garrett was going to go a little bit sooner than he did. Garrett waited just about for the green flag, but he starts to get that advantage now as they work through the banking in turn 1 and 2. Inside had more organization, but now Fritsch is going to jump up top. He'll push Daniel Falkingham. Garrett decides where to go. He'll stick up top. Freddie Bosnes trying to draw even with second into turn 3.
Some hesitation there from Garrett Maines as he tried to decide where he wanted to go. Eventually picks the top side with Daniel Falkingham and Frisch in tow with them. So Garrett Maines, a little bit of hesitation there into 3, but eventually does make the right decision to go up and block the outside lane in front of that red, white, and blue PGR eSports branded 39, who now goes second on the outside lane. Another red, white, and blue car behind him. Again, that is Michael Frisch. Not necessarily a series regular quite yet, is the 58, but tonight certainly looking sporty in that Toyota Camry as he looks for his first PGR Thursday night win. Big blink on the bottom from Freddie Bassinez as he and John Ward almost had some issues there. They still might have some compatibility issues. Again, we've noted this before in this Gen 7 car. When a blink happens, you can have that bumper phasing. John Ward and Freddie Bassinez appear to be okay. They're going to continue to roll to the front. Bassinez back to the left elbow of Falkingham as he tries to come back forward. It's all Garrett Maines off turn 2.
We ride on board now with Carson Freeman, the driver out of Trinity, North Carolina, right now sitting in 6th. Picked up 7 spots from where he started this race at. Carson, one of the newer drivers to the Intimidator Superspeedway Series, but he is looking stout so far here tonight. As we cross the line, it'll now be 67 of 100 laps complete, and it is still all 2x2 for at least the first 10 rows. The man who continues to lead them all, though, is the one of Garrett Maines. He had to deal with a couple of hiccups early on, but he now finds himself out in front. The inside, though, starting to charge now. Freddie Bosnes, he'll actually get an opportunity to go to the lead now as they dive off into turn number 3. You see the sparks fly, and Dawson starting to slowly transition here closer into the nighttime at Atlanta. You touched on it earlier as, well, we're going to hold that thought because caution back out on the racetrack, and this time it's one of the Team PGR drivers, Mike Davenport, who goes for a slide, and he'll come to a halt just about 100 yards before the start-finish line.
A big damage on the 55 this time. He'd gotten away with a couple, I think, earlier that he got involved in, and I just don't think that's going to be the same case here this time around. So for Davenport, a tough break. This was in the second pack. I was just about to start talking about the second pack being back behind the lead group, and this one happens back around the Turcotte machine. That's Luca Turcotte, the 88 on his car, the 36 on the timing and scoring, and he just washes up the racetrack. Gets in the left rear. Mike Davenport sends him sideways, and Davenport Hammers the outside wall. Hard hit for the 55. And the caution flag came out pretty quickly in that. Not sure if we had any secondary from this, from guys trying to get off the racetrack and avoid. But it's Davenport that goes hard to the outside wall. Big damage on his right front. Could very well set him behind the 8 ball here late in the stages of this race.
Yeah, it's a tough break for Davenport, and there's really not much you can do. And for Tacot right there, obviously nothing intentional, tight quarters racing, but just a little bit of contact gets you slightly out of shape. And for Davenport, just that little overcorrection was all it took for that car to go basically dead right back into the fence. And if he doesn't have a broken right front, I would be amazed. And I think that'll likely be an end to the night for, again, one of the Team PGR drivers. And so a tough break for the 55. Well, as we gear back up to get going again for what will be our 9th restart of the night, as we continue to get closer to that 10 caution marker. Not something that we were hoping coming into this race, but again, a big field at a smaller racetrack. And, you know, Dawson, you said this earlier, but we haven't been to Atlanta in so long. A lot of these guys trying to get a feel for it in general. You top on the fact that we've got a setup where the brakes are a little bit interesting. You know, obviously we've seen some handling issues, especially when pushing through the corners. Just a tough combination is what it's proven to be so far tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Austin, to kind of go back to this wreck, but we actually had a secondary in this after Mike Davenport got sideways. Ethan Eckert ran through the grass and lost it, getting back onto the racetrack. It spun right up, and Josh Jambroni had nowhere to go and just ran right into the back of the AutoZone Mustang. And there is considerable damage on both of those two race cars as something happened aboard the 12. He just had no grip coming back up off the grass, trying to miss the Davenport crash. And he gets clobbered by Josh Jambroni, who tried to get on the brakes. We mentioned the struggle with brakes tonight. Another pair of cars with big-time damage towards the back end of the field.
Yeah, and that's kind of an insult to injury type of deal, too, because those two were both through it. And then for Gambrone and Ethan Eckert, all of a sudden now they're going to be in the pits joining the fray of cars trying to fix damage as well. Well, now that we go back live, lights are off on the pace car, so we'll be going back green this time as we are now again likely well within side of the fuel window to make it to the finish. But it's going to be all about track position, and of course only 2 sets of tires here tonight. Certainly could be an interesting part of the strategy, especially later on in this race. I would say probably no less than 25 laps to go. Would you take that final set of tires if you have it left and you're considering it? Once you get past that point, it is going to be, again, all about track position. We do want to give a shout out to the Jack Shack watching here tonight with the $5 super chat. Says the Jack Shack is always rocking. Good to see a few of the drivers out here tonight. I know Trev's watching at home. Got to assume Evan, a few others. I think I saw Kenny Reel in the chat. So big shout out to all the boys in the Jack Shack for tuning in and racing here for the Intimidator Superspeedway Series. Well, it's going to be Bosnez and John Ward who line up on the front row. And it's the one of Mains alongside Axel Smith and the Grillo's Pickle Machine who will line up back in row number 2. The 97's been quiet tonight, Dawson, but he's picked up 33 spots. I think Axel's going to be a pretty aggressive pusher here coming back to green.
Another one that's been quiet tonight, but in front in the right time is Kenny McCullough lining up right behind that green and white 97. He's the red and black 03. The captain from McCullough Motorsports has been towards the tail end of the field most of the night tonight, but he picked the right time to come up front. He's on the outside of row number 3. Bassinez and Ward will get us back into the restart zone. Green flag is back in the air. A little bit less of a jump for the leader Bassinez that time. Ward timed it up pretty well. Bassinez will get clear. The jump is not quite as much for that inside lane. Mains trying to work to the back bumper of the 2. He will get there first. And that's because Kenny McCullough did not get going in the 03. The outside will reel here off turn 2. Ward and Axel Smith by their lonesome for now as the outside tries to get working and the moves start out back. Flanagan made one of them about 8 rows deep in the field, and Brambilla just made another one up here. He fills the gap behind Smith. Nash Brambilla coming back forward. It's all Bassinez, though, off of 4.
Mark Vondell 3 wide. I don't think he meant to do that, though. Flanagan's going to shoot the gap through the middle. Patton on his inside. Joshua McCullough slides through as well. But it'll be interesting to see if that third lane develops and who decides to go up there first. But up front, it is still all the one of Garrett Mains. Falkingham trying to give him a push clear. He'll do just that. Man, you saw Bosnez with a huge wiggle coming off of turn 2. Looked like John Ward may have been trying to push, got that line just a little bit squirrely, and that cost them just enough for Mains to jump down. Off of turn number 4, though, you can tell the pace starting to pick up as the lights continue to get brighter here at Echo Park Speedway. Just 28 laps to go. Garrett out in front, trying to keep control of this field. Now he's going to go onto the apron. The one trying to save it is he's going to slide sideways. Can he save it? Back up into traffic, 4 wide. They're all still trying to hang on. Dieterich almost goes around. Now he will. Back into the outside wall, but it's not going to draw the caution. Dieterich will continue on. All things considered, how did Garrett Maines not clean out the field?
Have no idea. What a save for Garrett Maines. He collects some contact from Diedrich there. Diedrich actually gets the worst of it. He gets the outside wall and has some severe right foot damage to that 24. For both of those guys to keep going, I have no clue how we did not have a multi-car accident at the front of the field. And Maines is actually able to keep going and maintain some drafting help back there as well. So he's not out of this race quite yet with 27 laps to go. We'll focus back up front. Daniel Falkingham benefits off that as he goes to the lead in the 39. It was the push from Bassinez, I believe, to the back of the one. They got him out of shape, and he got down on the apron and got, completely out of hand there in that one machine, but everybody keeps it back going. Falkingham leads ahead of Frisch and Bassinez. Smith is on the outside by himself as John Ward bailed on the top lane to go to the bottom. So did Nash Brambilla. So Axel Smith reeling a bit here down the back stretch as he waits for McCullough and Nagels and Melikar. But it's Falkingham back up front, and that separated the field. It fractured into two pretty distant packs here. The first pack, and then there's a second one with Garrett Maines and company that fell well off the first one. They might need some help here to get back into this race.
Ken McCullough Jr. really trying everything he can to get that 03. Enough momentum to charge to the front on this outside line, but Daniel Falkingham still in very good position. He's got, of course, Fritsch behind him. Freddie Bosnaz back in third. John Ward and Ash Brambilla, the rest of the cars that are single file up front. But here comes the MMS captain, Ken McCullough Jr., trying to get a side draft off the 23 to get to the front. He's got one of the best super speedway pushers in Cody Nagels behind him. You can tell, though, Dawson, sparks continue to fly, even now that we're into the full nighttime just about. Handling is still an issue, and for Nagels right here, you can tell he is really on the fence about, does he risk pushing through the corner to get this line going sooner? There it is. He's going to try it, and it's going to turn them both. Nagels hard into the outside wall. This is going to bring the caution back out. Ken McCullough Jr. also got some damage, but he continues on. And it is the 6 who took the risk. And unfortunately, instead of the reward, Dawson, this one's going to come back to bite him.
Yeah, tough one there, but something we've seen a couple of times so far in tonight's race. The pushing on exit of the corner. The car wants to unload. I think what you're going to see here is Nagels realizes that Kenny McCullough Jr. is out of shape on corner exit and tries to lift and may get a little bit of help from out back as he tried to get in the brakes. We'll go back and obviously start to take a look at this one, but a disappointing end potentially to Nagels' side. He's got some damage on that car. We'll see if he's able to fix it and get back going. It's that same tough spot we just saw the 08 of Sizemore get out of shape a moment ago. This one, though, is going to be a push gone wrong, which is what we saw earlier in the night as Nagels got to the back of McCullough off of corner exit. He's the slightest bit offset. It is probably 6-8 inches tops that he's offset with McCullough, but with how sensitive the car can be right there, unfortunately for Kenny McCullough, it gets out of his hands. And then again, yeah, as I said, as Nagels tries to jump in the brakes and let Kenny McCullough make the save, Justin Melikar gets into the right rear of Nagels as he's trying to get in the brakes, and it turns the 6 around. And Cody Nagels, I'll tell you this, is lucky that when he comes to a stop against the outside safer barrier, we mentioned the struggles with brakes tonight. He's lucky this car actually bounces back straight and guys don't come flying into the incident, because some of the guys in that second pack I don't think would have been able to slow down.
I would have to agree. Third time, though, tonight, as you just mentioned, second or third, I should say, that we have seen an incident where pushing off the corner has just not worked out. And it's obviously a big concern, especially once we get to the last, 5-10 laps of this race, which we're getting closer to, as guys go full aggression and it's time to go to the front. It'll be very interesting to see how it all pans out. Well, as we get ready for another attempt at a green flag run here, this is our 10th caution of the night. Haven't had the opportunity to do it yet, so we're going to take the time now to head to our first break of the night. We'll go side by side, though, so that you don't miss a thing. Stick with us. We'll be right back here at Atlanta.
I played a couple of simulators, and this was like very responsive, especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really, really on point.
But you feel like you're really driving, it feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
Welcome back to Echo Park Speedway, the Intimidator Superspeedway Series, live here on PGR eSports. And I want to give a big welcome to everybody just tuning in, and a thank you to everybody who has been sticking around with us. Dawson, we were just talking about it over break. We're getting ready to go green, but man, anybody's got a chance at this thing here as we start to close in on the end.
Well, again, it's, the crashes that are happening here at the front. They're involving some of the big contenders that we see on a weekly basis here on Thursday night, and it's open an opportunity for a potential upset winner, a potential first-time winner here in the Intimidator Superspeedway Series if things could fall somebody's way. Green flag back in the air, stack-ups both ways, but everybody gets rolling as Daniel Falkingham controls the start and will roll out towards turn one. He'll have one car jump in behind him. Michael Frisch abandons that top lane, and it's been a storyline all night. The outside, this first 3/4 of a lap, just is not getting going very well, and if you can at all afford to jump down, doing so has benefited some guys here as we get later in this race. Frisch is going to jump down. John Ward has jumped down. Carson Freeman is in that bottom lane. Malik Ray's the first car in line, and he is 7 rows deep in the field. He's got an aggressive pusher on his back bumper. Ward's going to jump up, and all of a sudden it's game time for the outside with 19 to go.
We got trouble. Sorry to cut you off here, Dawson. Are they all going to save it? No, caution's going to come out. This one, I think, was out of precaution, if you will, for what was getting ready to be a big incident there. Right around the 84, Justin Melikar back towards Max Dinda in the 48. As these guys started to get almost 4 wide, it looked like, as they were going through the quad oval. And a couple of them did get into the outside wall, but again, no major damage. And with what we've seen so far tonight, I think that was probably a decision by race control to say, hey, you know what? We know how it's been so far, the trend with cautions. These cars not slowing down very effectively. If it's close, let's just go ahead and throw the caution here. Gear these guys back up for another restart inside of 20 laps to go. This one's going to be a little bit of a quicker breakdown here, so we'll go back and look at the replay here. And again, this started right around Justin Melikar and company, and it's as they're going through the quad oval. You saw right there the gearbox view as he's got a few guys behind him here trying to gear up a run, but I want to go first actually to the chopper view and watch as they're coming off turn 4. You see Melikar on the inside in the purple machine, and as they go through the quad oval, it actually is just in front, rather to his outside. That's Nash Brambilla that shoots high. I'm not sure if it's off of contact from the car behind him. Axel Smith, no. He's not getting pushed. Maybe just kind of falls, I don't want to say falls asleep, but, well, he does hit the front bumper, rather the rear bumper of Quentin Steinbach. It almost looks like that's what shoots that car up into the outside safer barrier. And then as he starts to try to get this thing back together, the rest of the field's got to scatter to miss him, Dawson. And it looks like Melikar and a few others got away unscathed, but certainly a couple of cars there that did get into the outside wall.
It was behind Melikar that the secondary gets started back around. Matt Patton, Landon Velicki, Nathan Harper, Josh Jambroni. About in that group is where the secondary starts. Diedrich has some more damage on his car. Velicki's got some damage on his machine. The Jambroni car we just noted got in that incident with Ethan Eckert a moment ago after the last caution flag came out. He's involved in it. I think the worst damage of the secondary is Matt Patton. He got a pretty significant hit on the right front of his black and camo and orange number 3. So a number of cars involved out back of where that initial stack up and that initial interaction started. And again, I think you hit it on the head with a precautionary caution called there. Although, as we say that, a cause of caution penalty was given to the 3 of Matt Patton. So perhaps a little more than precautionary on that one after all.
Interesting. So somebody was found at fault. That'll send Patton to the back of the line. His first cause of caution that we are aware of so far here tonight. By the way, I do want to give a thank you to Tyler Vickery, our pit reporter, who did a phenomenal job all week in the road and the feature for the PGR 500. He's doing a little bit of sideline work for us here tonight, and we will see him as we kick off the ERA season. And for any drivers and fans watching at home, we mentioned that we're going to talk more details about ERA in the next couple of weeks, but there's going to be a lot of info sent down, and if you have the ERA membership, you are going to want to race those events. A lot of money going to be on the line. If you've raced ERA before, you know exactly what I'm talking about, so definitely do not want to miss out on those. As far as the Intimidator Superspeedway Series goes, we of course had the 2026 Better Half Dash that took place last night. That was a great event where VRX's own Teresa Spiker was actually able to get the job done there, so it was a phenomenal win on her end. And then, of course, last week, Dawson, you were covering the return of the Intimidator Superspeedway Series after the PGR 500. Looking ahead, we've still got a couple of good events coming up. Looking at the schedule here, March Madness, as you mentioned, obviously kicks off next week. That is going to be a huge event that takes up really about the next 5 weeks for PGR as we go from the round of 32 to the round of 16, Elite 8, Final 4, and then the championship. And a lot of money on the line for that event as well. And then the rest of the way, we will start to look at who is going to be trying to work their way in to the 2026 PGR Championship. Well, lights are off on the pace car. Getting ready to get back to green flag racing. It's going to be Daniel Falkingham and Michael Fritsch in row number 1. Bosnes and Freeman row 2. And then Dylan Jones, the last man inside the top 5 for a restart, which is now getting down to crunch time.
Yeah, I think an interesting storyline here is outside these top 4 or 5 cars. It's, a lot of guys that are back half of the top 10, front half of the top 15 have been involved in incidents tonight. I mean, look back there, a fraction of the field that started this race is still out on track. 36 are still in the lead lap, but a number have had to go down and get damage repaired. So really only about the front 20 to 22 cars stayed out under this caution, or at least had damage to the point that they could stay out and avoid coming down to the service of their pit crew. But I look at, again, the potential upset here tonight. I look at a guy, in Colby Nill potentially going to victory lane. David Flanagan, not as much of an upset anymore. A Light Series winner in the 31 in his own right. With Quentin Steinbach's back there. Justin Melikar's back there. Axel Smith. A number of potential upsets just because of the attrition rate here at the front of the field. And it continues to be a factor late in this race. 15 to go in the restart zone. Green flag. Falkingham off and running. Big stack up bottom side. And they're going to crash. Steinbach, Josh McCullough, and others get sideways in the middle portions of the pack. Are they going to save it? For now, they do. Garrett Maines, Colby Nill trouble. It's Maines and Nill that get together, and this is going to bring the caution out. And this one's going to be big up on the banking of turn 1.
And another caution. This time it's before we can even get to turn number 1. Garrett Maines rolling off the banking. Everybody's going to dodge him. The 78's got damage. That was Brian Hennings. Multiple other cars here involved. And for Maines this time, he's not going to get away completely unscathed. You notice there is some damage to the front nose of his Toyota Camry. And just noticed on the driver cam right before we pulled it up, he kind of threw the hands up as to what the heck just happened there. And we're kind of asking the same exact thing. And your 12th caution of the night here in what is only a 100-lap race. So we're starting to now bring in the possibility of an overtime. But before we get to that, obviously got to go back and get a replay of what went wrong on this one. And Dawson, it all started right back on the restart. That's where the chaos first broke out. We thought everybody was going to have it saved, but they just weren't quite able to. I want to start first, though, here with actually the restart itself. Watch from the chopper view. They get to the green flag, and it's right around the Joshua McCullough, Colby Nill, and Justin Melikar machines. They just don't get going. Not sure if it's a stack up, somebody trying to accelerate too early. Either way, though, it gets everybody out of shape. Steinbach back into McCullough. Von Dell gets a piece. Larry McDonald's there. They go 4 wide. It looks like they're trying to save it, but, oh, man, I'll tell you what, Dawson, it looks like the 88 and the 1 there, tight quarters racing, but I believe that was a little bit of net code between Colby Nill and Garrett Maines. Granted, there may have been contact anyway. It looked like the 88 was slightly drifting up, but either way, once they get together, that's what sends these two up into the outside wall and causes the rest of the field to scatter to try to miss them.
Yeah, it's a tough one there, but it gets started with the stack up, and that got the field so out of shape. I actually thought the caution flag was going to come out before we got down to turn 1 with the Josh McCullough incident on the stack up on the restart, and something happens there as Falkingham gets up through the gears. It just stacks up the bottom lane behind him, and it gets back to Josh McCullough. Again, those stack ups get worse the further back in the field they go. A couple cars come together, but then in the secondary, as guys trying to drive away from the scene of that, Garrett Maines tries to make it, it's almost staggered 4 wide. It's very close there on the entry to turn 1. And you're right, there is a little bit of net code. I think those 2 cars were going to make contact anyways. And it turns Nill to the outside wall, but there are a number of cars that were involved in this one. I saw Barksdale get a piece. I saw Axel Smith get a piece. I saw Jambroni, Davenport, Patton, Von Dell may have gotten into it, Zittel, Casinger. I mean, these are a number of cars that were just involved in even just the last caution. They just cannot catch a break. They're involved in another one here inside of 15 to go.
Yeah, this was definitely another chaotic one here, and you'll actually notice on your scoring tower there, left side of your screen, we're starting to see the tally, if you will, for cars that are now out of this race or with significant damage continue to add up here. it looked like as you got back to right around the 30th position, maybe even a little bit sooner than that, cars that were either trapped at least one lap down or in the pits with some sort of damage, and then guys further towards the back that are just out of this race altogether. So as we'll be coming to a restart here with, again, likely close to, if not under 10 laps to go. It's crunch time, Dawson, but I mean, I think at this point, if you're outside of probably the top 5, maybe top 10, being a little bit more conservative, you got to be pretty nervous here that you may not get the chance to get to the front with all the chaos we've seen, and knowing there's a possibility of another caution here as we get towards the end of this one.
Well, I'll give you the flip side of that in terms of not being able to get to the front. With the amount of chaos we've seen at the front, you may very well get there just by virtue of avoiding some of the chaos that's going to happen up here. Multiple crashes have started inside the top 6 on the racetrack tonight, and the pushes are only going to get a little more desperate. The moves are going to get bigger as we get closer to the checkered flag. So on one hand, you don't have a lot of time to make it happen if this race does go green. But if the trend continues here at the front of the field, you can very well find yourself in position to win this race where you were involved in crashes earlier. Maybe the night's not gone your way. I look at Dylan Jones, P4. He was involved in a couple earlier. Carson Freeman's been involved in a couple tonight. So is Malik Ray. Jeff Merck, who we saw a little bit ago pound the outside wall after getting loose over in turn 3, he's P7 for this restart in the 60s. So your night is by far not over. So while you may not have an opportunity if this thing goes green, this thing continues on how it has, you could very well find yourself in prime position when it comes down to the end of this race.
One of the beauties of super speedway racing is that you are never out of it, unless, of course, you have the meatball flag, and we have seen plenty of those tonight. But you mentioned some of the storyline names involved in incidents earlier. Still going to have a shot here at the end. iRacing.com pace car is going to pull off. Daniel Falkingham will lead us back into the restart zone, and it is going to be just 11 laps to go here at Atlanta. Good restart for the 39 car. He gets way out in front, and now he's got to be careful. We have seen this so many times throughout the restarts tonight. Frisch is going to have a big run. Bosnes on the inside. Where does the 39 go? Does Frisch push him, or does he try to jump to the outside? Here comes the run. Looks like the 58 is content to push. That'll briefly stack up the high side. Meanwhile, on the bottom, Bosnes trying to fight back. 2x2 all the way back. Already, though, Dawson, the 62 of Eleki looking to go to the third lane. Zittle's going to follow him through.
Yeah, that was because of that stack up front trouble. Kobe Nils around in the quad oval in the 88. No caution yet as he got sideways and turned into the outside wall. Some blinking. We'll keep it green and we'll keep it up front. That stack up caused the Veliki and Zittel machines to want to take the momentum rather than go to the outside. Now the caution flag going to come out late. I believe it is for the incident with Colby Nil.
And it is indeed Colby Nil in the 88 machine who goes around. So as we are now about 6 minutes here from midnight, we will get another caution. And we will restart once again here. And I think this is actually going to give us a restart, well, definitely inside 10 laps to go. This could actually get potentially a little bit closer to 5 laps to go. So we're not fully at the possibility of overtime just yet, but we continue to get closer and closer to it. Well, going back and look at it here, Dawson, it looked like the 88 got some damage from that initial spin. The bigger question here was what actually happened. I think Colby was blinking here. Yeah, going through turn 4, he wasn't around, and then all of a sudden that car reappears. Garrett Maines was already in the side of him, so I got to think that was maybe some sort of technical issue with the internet connection. And then, yeah, in fairness to Colby right here, when he gets into the outside wall, you can see the right front suspension wobbling around, so it's completely broken on this car. He's just trying to keep it as straight as he can. It eventually snaps on him and then leaves the 88 Turcotte nowhere to go. Joshua McCullough had an incident up front. Race control obviously trying to keep it green, but felt like with 3 cars getting involved on the racing surface, caution did need to be thrown in that one.
Yeah, the caution didn't need to be thrown. McCullough is actually the car that's going to draw the caution flag as he comes back across. He's obviously in front of oncoming traffic, so no surprise there. The caution comes out. I'll tell you what, Austin, we've just had a melee under caution. Larry McDonald's gotten around, trying to get on the brakes and get down through the gears. He's gone around, and he's collected multiple other cars. Zittel, Jambroni, Craighead, Kenny McCullough, Tanner Kasinger, Davenport may have gotten a piece of this. A number of cars that were inside the top 20 just crashed in a melee under the caution flag.
And why not, right? I mean, what we've seen so far here tonight, might as well. And yeah, it just looks like an issue there with the brakes. They had a checkup up in front. McDonald tried to slam on the brakes and locked it up, slid into the 49, and that's what collects 2 or 3 from there. And they were still wrecking even about 10-15 seconds after that initial incident. So we've had, and it looks like, boy, Larry's got huge right front damage from that. So we've had 12 cautions, actually maybe 13. We've had incidents under caution. Be interested to see what else we could see before it's all said and done here tonight. But I'll tell you what, Dawson, we're starting to try to have a little bit of fun here, obviously, with the way it's been going here the last couple of cautions. But at the end of the day, for the guys that are up front, we are getting close to the end, and we didn't really talk about payouts yet tonight, but they're pretty significant, and we had an oversized field. What I mean by that is the payouts were based off of 35 drivers. We had 46 that started the race, so these payouts are actually going to be higher than what they're listed as on the flyer. Only a $19 entry tonight, 130 to first, 119 to second, 100 to third, 90 to fourth, and 70 to fifth. And then you see right there the highest finishing drivers with no wins here in the Intimidator Superspeedway Series going to get a bonus $35 and $16. So still a lot of opportunity here, Dawson, but when we get down to crunch time, I can't imagine an opportunity of trying to get to the front here on an overtime finish. So I think you really got to go for whatever you can get here with this restart.
Yeah, considering that the time is starting to run low, we only have one potential overtime attempt, and we won't get another redo after that. You do definitely have to go for it immediately right here and try to get what you can, but we just haven't had much time for guys to make those moves happen. So obviously, if you're a driver, you got to weigh it. You know, do you try to get up to the third lane, try to make that work? Do you try to put yourself in a vulnerable position knowing that we just don't have a lot of laps left in this race to run under the green flag where you can control your own destiny? A quick note, by the way, those payouts have actually been extended down to the top 7 in this race, not just the top 5, and 2 bonus payout positions. The highest 2 finishing drivers without wins on Thursday nights are going to get paid out as well. So 9 total payout positions. You talked about the oversized field. It's oversized payouts as well, and that could only ratchet up the intensity even more here at the front of the field.
Certainly going to add to the aggression. Well, lights are off on the iRacing.com pace car, and the man who started 32nd, Daniel Falkingham, will lead us back to green. He's been in control, rather, on these last couple of restarts and has been able to hold the field at bay for the most part so far. We'll have to see how it pans out right here. And the other thing that has been key, the outside line has struggled to match the leader on these restarts. This could be your last shot at it, although trends would certainly suggest otherwise. Either way, for Daniel Falkingham and Michael Fritsch, they are getting ready to get going once again. 13 cautions so far as we're going to go back to green flag racing here, and it will be just 7 laps to go, 6 as we cross the line. Green flag back in the air for Daniel Falkingham, and he's going to make the quick jump to the outside.
And Frisch makes the quick jump to the inside, shades of what he did on the last couple of restarts in the 58. He'll go nose to tail with Falkingham as they work off the banking of turn 2. This time, though, the outside lane does not fall back quite as far. Trouble out back. More crashing. It's back around Kenny McCullough. He's going to come back up. Garrett Maines and Craig Head collected. Cautions out there, still crashing back there. Another multi-car accident.
And Garrett Maines right in the thick of this one. You see the one car involved as well. And that was, I believe, Cameron Craighead that gets collected. And then you go back a little bit further, Brent Menifee, we saw him involved earlier. Still a lot of damage on that race car that he was trying to get fixed. This is going to lead to even more damage on that. 14th caution of the night for anybody still keeping count. And we will get another replay here. Go back and see what happened on this one. This is going to be as they're coming off of turn number 2, Dawson. It looked like it started potentially back where they were going 3 wide. Actually, it may have been a little bit in front of this. So we'll get a couple of angles of this first to figure out where it started, and then we can actually kind of dissect exactly what happened. No, this starts further up here. Now, does it look like that might have been around the 12 of Ethan Eckert? No, even further up than that. The 03 of Ken McCullough Jr., who we had talked about, started a little bit further towards the back of the field, but had been fighting, made his way all the way to the front. He's running 3 wide here between Quentin Steinbach and Cameron Craighead. They're coming off of turn 2, and it looks like Craighead's running him really, really tight, and I think, yeah, the 1 starts to creep down just a little bit. Steinbach may have barely inched off the apron, but it certainly looked like the 1 was just coming down enough to get into the 3. There was already basically no more than a couple inches of room between these guys. They get together. Ken McCullough Jr. trying to save it, but that car goes back across the racetrack. Garrett and Craighead get tangled up down the backstretch, and then everybody else scattering to miss him. Miles Bagley, Kyle Zittel, Mark Vondell, Austin Call. A lot of big names involved in this one.
Yes, the crash just seemed to never end. It basically lasted the entire length of the back straightaway here at Atlanta. Larry McDonald, we just saw his issues under caution. He's involved in this one, too, as he goes for a spin in the 80. They also collected the 64 of Menifee out back of this as well. And, going back to what started this one, it did feel to me, going to look back, that Craighead ran McCullough down. I don't know if he didn't know they were 3 wide or what the case was there. And that is going to be reflected in the race control call here. As he has been called for the cause of caution. And yeah, I don't know if he just did not get a spotter call that they were going to be 3 wide. It was a little bit staggered, so you wonder if he just didn't know that those 3 cars were 3 wide at that point. He runs McCullough to the point of no return. McCullough gets turned, and then obviously Craighead Mains go around in the secondary. And again, the brakes on the cars combined with the lack of real estate, there's just not much these guys can do. And again, it turns into just a massive melee on the back straightaway. Again, a crash that lasted for over 1,000 feet, it felt like.
Yeah, and remember, race length here tonight was 100 laps, but it's going to be close on if this actually sends us into our overtime or not. And if you're just joining us, we have had 14 cautions so far for 41 laps under yellow. Daniel Falkingham is your current leader. Only 10 lead changes. Thought we would see a lot more than that here tonight, but there just hasn't been quite enough green flag laps for that to necessarily play out. But we could see quite a few here in the final couple of laps as these guys try to decide who's going to be the winner here tonight. Well, I'll tell you what, Dawson, another storyline to watch here is potential first-time PGR winners. Obviously, Daniel Falkingham, he's been to victory lane multiple times, but Michael Fritsch, of course, no stranger to winning in iRacing, but certainly would be his first win on the PGR side of things. You go back a few more spots. Carson Freeman, he's in 7th. He's still got a shot. Justin Mellicar in 8th. And then Jeff Merck back in 10th. We talk about the run he's had so far tonight. He's up 8 from where he started this race at. After all the damage, all the chaos, the car looks relatively clean, and he's back inside the top 10 right when it matters most.
Well, I look even, back around him as well. You mentioned those guys. I look at Cody Nagels. It felt like just, a couple laps ago. It's been obviously more than that since then, but a couple of cautions ago, Cody Nagels was backwards across the field with major front-end damage. His car is now completely clean, at least from what I can see. He's back up to the 12th position on the racetrack. He's going to restart on row 6, and he's not necessarily out of this. Nathan Harper's been involved in a number of incidents tonight. Axel Smith. Landon Velicki has not been up front as much as we expected him to. Josh Jambroni, a little bit ago, was basically up in the air off the bumper of Ethan Eckert, and he's still technically got a shot in this thing as well. If that doesn't tell you the attrition that we have had in this race, I don't know what does. Hold your breath. If we can make it back another 500 feet, this race will be official. We're going to end it right here, and we will. White flag is up. 1 lap to go here at Atlanta. Falkingham leads back to 1. Frisch, when does he make the move? John Ward trying to get the outside going with Mellicar as they work on the banking of turn 2. Out back, Nathan Harper and Landon Velicki, a last ditch, trying to get to the front of the field. It's not going to work. Bassinez the first to move as they work down to 3. Does Frisch get a chance to move out of line? Oh my goodness, a monster crash. Car's airborne here after the start-finish line. Falkingham's not even getting it to celebrate. He got piled into the outside wall 100 feet past the line. But his decorated PGR career continues. Another victory for the 39. He is going to get to celebrate. He does get to drive away in the 39 and come back and do some donuts.
Daniel Falkingham right there with what would have been the sport ender going across the line if we were keeping count, but surprised that car does continue on. We'll go back and get a look at the last lap replay here in just a moment. Before we do, though, for Daniel Falkingham, he adds once again to the resume. We talked about what he has done in the Crown Jewel events for PGR over in the Cope Series. Now, of course, one of the official PGR-sponsored drivers, and he's going to come across the line and burn it down in front of the virtual grandstands for any of the fans that are still hanging around. And 39 Tell you what, though, Dawson, actually, one of the things to keep in mind right here is the fact that that finish was actually one of the cleanest things that we have seen all night. Bosnez came really close. I thought he was maybe going to get there at the end, but ultimately 0.03 of a second was the margin of victory for Daniel Falkingham tonight.
Well, it'd been the story of the night so far in that outside lane, and that's just how long it'd been taking to get that lane up and moving. And I will credit John Ward and Justin Melikar for getting him as close as they did. I thought they did a good job there, knowing that there wasn't going to be an issue with engine temps on the bottom side of the racetrack. To get Bassanes that close, I think it was a Herculean effort. It's a tough break for him, but for Falkingham, a well-earned win. I'm a little surprised that Michael Frisch did not take a right hand out of line there. He opts to just push Daniel Falkingham, and it works out well for the 39 as he is back in victory lane.
And could have been some of the conservativeness of what you saw tonight. Those two could have been working together as well. Either way, we're going to get a look at your results tonight before we go down, break down the last lap, and then grab your top 3 for interviews. Again, results unofficial, and I do got to swipe this over here to what we had after the race. This was, of course, qualifying results. And that is why it shows Wyatt Gray as being scored as your race leader. Again, a couple new graphics changes here on PGR, so we're still getting through some of the sorting of that. But yes, Daniel Falkingham, again, unofficially, but didn't see any issues that would change this result, is your race winner here tonight at Echo Park Speedway. Freddie Bosnez is going to take home second. Michael Fritsch finishes in third, pushing that 39 machine to the win. John Ward on the outside, trying to help Bosnez get there, comes up a little bit short, but he'll still take home a top 5 and fourth. And then Dylan Jones, the last man inside those top 5 positions. Malik Ray still going to walk home with some money tonight. He finishes in 6th. Justin Melikar had a great run for the Jack Shack. He'll finish in 7th with Carson Freeman back in 8th. Dieterich, after the big hit through the middle portions of the race, recovers inside the top 10. And it's David Flanagan for the Jack Shack who will finish in that 10th spot.
Jeff Merck comes up just short of a payout spot tonight in 11th, but a heck of a recovery effort for that NBG entry. Axel Smith finishes in 12th. Cody Nagels on the comeback trail falls a little bit short as well in 13th. Same with Nathan Harper back in 14th. Michael Barksdale finishes in 15th tonight with Matt Patton in the 16th spot. Nash Brambilla in 17th. A pair of McCulloughs 18th and 19th rather. Josh McCullough in 18th. Kenny McCullough in 19th, and it's Tucker McClendon that will round out the top 20.
And finishing back in the 21st spot here tonight as, again, continue to work through some of the technical difficulties. And there we go. We got things scrolling here. Josh Giambrone, who finishes in 21st. Quentin Steinbach, 22nd. Miles Bagley, 23rd. Larry McDonald, who had some trouble tonight, finishes in 24th. Brian Hennings got all the damage fixed, but still finishes in 25th. Garrett Maines back in 26th. Cameron Craighead finishing in 27th tonight. Kyle Zittel, 28th. And rounding out the top 30 is going to be the 118 of Austin Call and the 12 of Ethan Eckert.
Max Dinda, a tough night for him in the 48. Just could not seem to get things going the right direction in 31st. Mike Davenport for Team PGR, same thing for him in 32nd. Brent Menifee, a tough run for him in 33rd in the 64. Landon Velicki, we really never saw him up front. I was a little surprised. A former PGR Atlanta winner on a Thursday night. He finishes 34th in the 62 for the Jack Shack. Mark Vondell comes home 35th. Colby Nill back in 36th. Tanner Kasinger, he ran up front early. It does not go his way in the end. He finishes 37th. Luca Turcotte in 38th. Steve Sizemore, 39th. Andrew Hansley in 40th. Those guys involved in incidents well earlier in the race. Same with Wyatt Gray back in 41st. Brock Westbrill in 42nd. Josh Bonwell, 43rd. Jake Dilger, 44th. Misael Flores in 45th. Those are the 45 cars that took a lap. Carson Hodge did not take a lap tonight. He'll be credited with 46th.
We're going to go back and get a look at this final lap. Obviously, a lot of chaos that went on through here, and was trying to get a feel of some of the things that went wrong here. And I did notice, looking back at some of the data, that I think my mic did go out as we were coming through the last half of the final lap. So apologies that there was no audio from the commentator's side on the last half of the white flag lap, but you did, of course, still get to see Daniel Falkingham get the job done. We were going just as crazy, though, up here, even though you couldn't necessarily hear it, coming to the checkered flag. And watch the replay back here. This is going to be for Daniel Falkingham. The finish itself was pretty clean as they were coming off of turn 4. With the way these next gens used to side draft, if this was the old package, I think that Bosnez for sure gets to him, but just a little bit of offsetness for the 92 and the 2. You wonder if that was all it took to keep the momentum with the inside, but for John Ward, tries to push Bosnez back even as they come to the line, though. Falkingham has got just what he needs to get there, wins it by about a half a car length, and then Dawson, of course, the chaos after the line. You see the big impact here for everybody flying into the wall. I mean, John Ward, who was that one barrel? I think it was Freddie Bosnez. and multiple others. One goes into the catch fence. It was Dylan Jones. And everything that wrapped up what was a chaotic night here at Atlanta. Well, we're going to turn our attention now to your top 3 for interviews, and we're going to start first with the man who finds victory lane here tonight. That is none other than the 39 of Daniel Falkingham. Daniel, this is Austin and Dawson in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, you get the job done here tonight after probably one of the craziest races we have seen in, I would say, 6 months to a year, with the amount of cautions, carnage, and everything in between, but you're able to hold on. Tell us about kind of how you were able to set yourself up on that final, not green-white checker, but final 2-lap shootout, rather, to get the job done.
Yeah, just get a good enough start, because Fresh and I, we were working together once we got up front, and thankfully I was able to get him down to the inside, because the inside was just a preferred lane on restarts all night, so I was able to get him down, and he was there committed to pushing me to get the win, and we both got a 1-3 out of it, so appreciate him for that. But yeah, really, we pretty much got the race wrapped up when we got the lead after Garrett got spun out of the lead, because we just kept having yellows after yellows after yellows, which it's a real shame, because I feel like this could put on some really good racing with Atlanta, and with how the next gen is, it put on some good stuff. But don't think most of these drivers could handle my my driveway in the wintertime with the way this race played out tonight. But you're gonna get that sometimes. Can't remember the last time we went into Friday morning for a PGR race then, but yeah, just it's a shame we kind of had a race like that, but we got another win in the record book, so we'll take it.
And if nothing else, you will get to go into Friday morning as a winner. Not your first win, but one of the things we heard from a lot of drivers tonight was how tough the setup was. What did you notice from your point of view, and what made this car so difficult to drive here?
Yeah, because like with the latest package in the next gen over the last couple of months, where the big thing is it's easy to really grief someone in the rear, where you can get tucked up on someone's rear end, and you can like make them really loose. That happens on all the tracks now with the next gen. It happens in the trucks too, but because like you saw, like there was a lot of people getting rear grief that they probably weren't even realizing it. And it was just causing so many self-spins and stuff. But I don't think a lot of people realize like how much of a handful these things are now over the last couple of months, especially at a place like Atlanta. You don't really see this at Daytona and Talladega, because like we can go run wide open there, no problem, because of how big the tracks are. But with when you get a mile and a half like this, where it's literally kind of like Daytona Junior, where like we're going really fast, but the corners are much more narrower and much more sharp, because just the way the size of the track is. It just causes this kind of racing, which, like I said, it's a real shame, because I think if we have some green flag racing, it'd be a lot of fun with handling coming into it and tire wear, because the tires were actually wearing out a good bit on some of the long runs we were getting at the beginning of the race. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's tough when you have races like this. It doesn't put a good light on PGR, but I mean, like I said, you're gonna have the races sometimes, so we just gotta hopefully learn from it.
And even through the chaos, you still prevail here tonight. So, Daniel, before we let you head out, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, shout out to Mike and Jascarrow and Baker for putting this stuff on, and also shout out them for sponsoring me in the eNASCAR qualifying series. Shout out to PGR eSports for all they do for me. Right now, after 2 weeks, we're in the points lead, so we've had a really good start to the season, and we get to run it back again at Rockingham this Tuesday. So make sure you all tune in 8 p.m. Tuesday night and check out the PGR eSports machine, hopefully at the front of the field. But I gotta thank those guys for all their support of me. Shout out to you guys broadcasting. Y'all do a stellar job with broadcasting, what y'all do with the 500 and what you've been doing since. So hopefully y'all keep up the good work. And shout out to everyone I was racing with: Frisch, Garrett, Dylan Jones, Cody, Caden, Merck, every single one of those guys, especially Frisch, because Frisch and I, we pretty much just controlled those few restarts when we could go green after Garrett got spun out of the lead. So hate that for him, but shout out to all those boys. And shout out to everyone watching. And yeah, appreciate y'all.
And Daniel, thank you for talking to us. Congrats again on the race win. And we will see you, well, not just next Thursday, but on Rockingham next Tuesday.
All right, I appreciate you. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right, there you go. Daniel Falkingham, your race winner tonight. That's going to bring us up to your second-place finisher. Freddie Bosnez in the 2 car. Dawson Wise stands by with him.
Freddie, it's the boys in the booth. You got a copy? Well, a wild one, I guess, would be, to say the least, tonight at Atlanta. Obviously, a ton of attrition, a ton of carnage. You managed to find yourself in a good spot late. You come up just a little bit short. Is there anything else you could have done there to get to victory lane tonight in Atlanta?
I mean, hopefully just... Honestly, if I would have been able to get up earlier, I mean, I got up pretty much like as soon as I got clear and I got the run in front of Ward, which, by the way, shout out to Ward. He gave an amazing push. He gave it all he had, so... But yeah, I mean, really, I don't know. It was just a ton of cautions, not much racing. It was last like 30 laps, it's over and over again. I just restart third. Dan and Frisch just come down to the bottom, but it was really fun at the start when we weren't having as much cautions. That could have been an amazing race, but just the field couldn't handle it.
We've kind of seen you return to PGR over the past couple of weeks, and obviously now as we look forward, we have the ERA events coming up, we have March Madness coming up, a number of high-profile races coming up over the next several weeks. A run like tonight, a P2, you were up front quite a bit in the mix for a lot of this race. What does this do for you and your confidence level going forward into some of those big-time events?
Well, yeah, like you said, I mean, I took a good amount of break. I'd say like at least 2 months. So I'm just trying to get back to where I was before that. So yeah, I mean, just racing these races, especially PGR races, MMS, just to get me back to where I was. I mean, I already feel back, but obviously I was probably better back then. But I mean, that is my best PGR finish of all time. So maybe I am better, but yeah, I mean, just repetition, really, just keeping on running and getting better.
Well, P2 for you tonight, another step in that comeback trail as you continue to look for a PGR victory. Tonight, though, second place for you in Atlanta. Before we let you go and celebrate it just a little bit, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Thanks to Mike and Baker putting on the show. They always do a ton of work, so always thanks to them. Thanks to you guys for broadcasting. Gonna watch that back later. Thanks to my teammates, of course, Malik, Ethan, Wyatt, Jimbroni. Thanks to all of them. They always help me out. That's about it.
Well, Freddie, thanks for the time. Congrats on the second place run tonight. Go enjoy it. Go celebrate. We'll see you for the next one.
Thank you.
And that will now bring us to your final podium finisher on the night. And that is, of course, no surprise to see the 58 up inside the podium positions. Matthew Fritsch. Matthew, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
I got a copy.
Well, man, we saw a lot of chaos here tonight, but you're able to bring it home in third. We didn't see you make the move at the end. Was the plan to stick with Falkingham, or were you thinking if you maybe had an opportunity into turn 3, you were going to try to jump out of line?
I think the whole plan there was just to stick behind Falkingham. I think it was the safest place on the track to not kind of lose any positions to where I was at and kind of put myself in a position where I would get shuffled in the middle because I know there's a lot of people, a lot of buddy systems out here. So obviously Falkingham being a teammate of mine, I had a teammate in front of me, so I kind of felt comfortable just kind of pushing him out there and to the win. So I would kind of okay with settling for second or third at the end of the night. Just kind of wanted to get across that finish line, honestly.
And you're able to do just that, taking home a pretty good chunk of change. But, Michael, the other thing I got to ask you about here, obviously, we've seen you in some of the big PGR events before, maybe not as much on the Intimidator Superspeedway Series side of things, but you make a start here tonight and you've got a good finish. Do you feel like this generates some momentum, and do you think you're going to try to make it out to a couple more Thursdays?
Most definitely, because kind of the leagues that I was running last season, or just kind of what I was running, kind of disappeared. Car counts were low, so I'm kind of looking for some places to race now. This is one of them, since I have a lot of teammates in here now, like Falkingham and Maines. So it's always good, especially on a Thursday night when I'm available. So it kind of works out for me. But you'll definitely see my name a lot more, that is for sure.
Alrighty, well, you had a good run here tonight. We're looking forward to seeing you in the future, but before we do let you head out, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, just want to thank Baker and Tarasco, obviously, for putting this on. They do a fantastic job, even though tonight was a little bit of a rough showing, but I know how these races are. I watch a lot of Dan's stream, and these are fantastic races to be a part of. So one bad race doesn't define or make a bad look, honestly, so we have them. But thank you guys for also putting on the broadcast, PGR, and everyone else behind the scenes. And Price Chopper, Kansas City Pioneers, Norse Force, all those guys that make the world revolve around me and my sim racing world, so can't thank them enough.
And Michael, thank you for talking to us. Congrats again on the podium finish, and hopefully we'll see you again next week.
Thank you.
All right, and that was I just realized I said Matthew Fritsch. I apologize again. It is Friday morning, folks. We're a little bit tired up here in the booth, but it was Michael Frisch who, of course, got himself that third place finish. Well, before we wrap it up, Dawson, you heard a lot of the drivers talk about it in their post-race interviews. There was a ton of chaos here tonight, but in the end, dominance did still prevail with Daniel Falkingham finding victory lane.
Yeah, Daniel Falkingham, one of the winningest drivers in series history. No surprise to me, experience, kind of comes to the top in a race like this where there is so much chaos, tends to be a more experienced guy that goes to victory lane. So for Daniel Falkingham, to me, no surprise. And, look, sometimes these races happen where a lot of chaos happens during the race. And tonight, obviously, the setup issues that we noted throughout the night with the brakes and the issues maybe with some handling under some of these race cars as well with that. And just being back in Atlanta for the first time in a while, by the way, after we spent most of the month of February in Daytona getting ready for the PGR 500. And a lot of guys have focused solely on Daytona. To come back to Atlanta, it's a complete physical and mental switch for you as a driver. So, to a degree, you kind of understand the chaos just a little bit. And again, these kinds of races happen, and tonight it just so happens to benefit Daniel Falkingham. And for Freddie Bassett and Michael Frisch, big runs for both of them. You heard Freddie say it's his best finish in PGR. Almost got a victory tonight in that 2-car. I think that win is coming. And for Michael Frisch, you heard him say he's going to be around quite a bit. Nice showing for him as well as he gets his feet wet in the PGR realm of things also.
Absolutely. Well, overall, it was a chaotic night, but we still had a good time, and we want to thank all the fans and drivers that tuned into the broadcast. As always, we hope you enjoyed. Again, still working out some of the kinks with the new graphics package. We'll have much more to come in the coming weeks. And then, of course, next week is the official start of March Madness 2026. Simrap Market will be the official sponsor of March Madness this year for PGR, so looking forward to that event and what it holds in store. As for tonight, that's going to do it for our coverage here at Echo Park Speedway. For my partner Dawson Wise, I'm Austin Green, and until next time, have a good night.